everybody, welcome to Frame Trap. Today I am joined by Bradley Ellis at the end there.
Hey.
And welcome back, Michael Huber.
Thank you. Yeah.
Huber, obviously I love shooting Frame Trap with you. You've been on many episodes. And it's nice to finally have you back. And I want to, I guess, to kind of welcome you back into the fold. You were talking before the show about how you watched all three Batman movies in one day. By all three, I mean the Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah. And this is how Huber characterized it. He goes, it's only 7.5 hours. Like it was no big deal, and he was surprised at the length. I can't do that. I can't watch 3 movies back to back like that. But anyway, it always feels good returning to an old favorite. And I think that that's something that you do, that I do, that Brad, that you do when you can. But as far as movies go, like beyond, I guess, the obvious, are there any things that really just kind of like pick you up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm obsessed with the MCU, of course. And I had just recently watched the entire MCU, obviously, like before Endgame. I think I even did it before Infinity War.
So you, like right before Endgame, you watched all of them again?
All of them.
Man.
But that's not in one day, obviously. That's impossible. Over like a couple weeks.
When you would do it, would it be like one movie a day, or would you watch multiple movies in a day? Okay.
Leading up to Infinity War, I did like one a night for
gotcha.
So like 2 months?
Couple weeks. Yeah.
Upon revisiting the MCU, I think that's fascinating because like some of these movies came out so long ago. Did you have kind of that revisitation thing where you liked some of them less than you thought you would and some more?
Yeah, I liked some more, I liked some less, but then, you know, I've said like at the end of the day, for me, the way I view it is like it's all one big thing, and they all, even, you know, people dunk on like Incredible Hulk or like Thor 2 or Guardians 2 even, and it's like when they're all just part of this one big thing, they all have special moments, special parts. Like, I love all of them.
Something that I'm kind of envious of is like you're so all in on the MCU that you're kind of always there immediately. And with a lot of the MCU movies, I came there later, and so you just you hear opinions and perceptions get formed. And one of those for me was Doctor Strange, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is just whatever. It's not any good." And so like I put it off even further because I'm like, I guess I'll watch this eventually, but I'm not excited about it. Yeah. Then I watched it and I was like, "Oh, this is really good." Like I enjoyed this a lot more than I was led to believe that I would. And so I love those moments too, when you're not expecting much and it really wins you over in the end. So.
I remember loving Doctor Strange, and then when I rewatched it, I was like, dude, this is like the best MCU. It's like in the tops.
Nice.
For sure.
Nice. Do you think you would ever do a definitive ranking of all the movies? Hard thing. Yeah.
I mean, Winter Soldier and Infinity War / Endgame are definitely like my top 2, 3.
Gotcha.
For sure. Yeah.
Huber, we have a lot to talk about, a lot of new things that have come up, but I think I actually want to start with you.
Cool.
Because I talked about Judgment on this episode a little while ago, but you and Brad have both played through and finished Judgment, and you're just kind of bouncing with energy about it. Yes. So feed me your energy, man.
Finished 45 out of 50 side quests in this thing. The last couple, though, man, they grind you. They do you dirty, and it's like
drone racing?
Dude, the drone racing, which I did a lot of, but then there's the one where you have to find the pictures for the pawn shop. Okay. You have to sell this dude paintings, but the way to get all the paintings is like win all the drone races or like win in the casino. So like really hard, those last couple. Yeah. Which is really cool, but I was like bummed because the whole time I was like, you look on the map in his office and it's like to get that final side quest, you have to finish 49 side quests. So it actually is like a final one. I haven't looked up what it is. You know, my mind was racing. It was like, dude, is Majima going to show up or something? I know it's probably nothing crazy like that.
I think it's cool. And you've talked about this before, and you know, it's a point of praise for the Exit series in general, but I think it's done very well in Judgment, where the different systems of the game feed into each other. And so it's like, hey, you want to get more of these side stories, you've got to like increase the individual friendship level of these people, which in turn like increases your level for the city. And it's just like everything that you're doing, like you just stop into a restaurant to get a bite to eat, and then it leads into a story. Like we were talking about that sushi guy who's so endearing and just like trying to learn the ropes of what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely loved Judgment. The serial killer vibes, just that like gritty, like I saw the devil vibes, Brad.
God.
So I saw the
Jeez.
devil as like
I just
the
wanted to know, like,
chaser,
saying serial killer vibes is like hard to process.
right? It's like disturbing,
Yeah.
but like because like I think like Japan for me, Japanese movies have like really good horror and stuff, but like Korea does really good like serial killer murder stuff, and like those movies fascinate me. I know it's like disturbing content, but like that's because it's like there were stakes, there were real stakes to these bodies turning up, and there was a real sense of danger that I hadn't really felt in Yakuza for a long time.
Sure.
So I think that really pulled me into the world of the detective,
Yeah, definitely kind of the vibe that I've gotten from some Yakuza games. It's like Kiryu is always an entertaining protagonist, but sometimes I get the sense where it's like, man, we've focused on his story a lot, and so they kind of lean on other characters to develop them because it's like, man, we've really seen a pretty wide arc with Kiryu, and I think that's what's nice with Yagami in Judgment is the pain that he's carrying with him and really digging into that and seeing how he processes that and then having that kind of that mystery kind of blossom around him. I think it's really, really good. And it is like it ends up being a really well told story at the end.
Totally. A lot of good characters coming in and out, a lot of good side stories. Love the way that there's like multiple kind of main quest lines that kind of feed into each other.
Yeah.
Just really well done.
Yeah, there are also moments where it just has an incredible sense of humor. I think of the like you go to the law office and they're trying to solve the mystery of the cake. That's pretty like it's kind of annoying in one hand because it's like it's so far removed from like the actual main story, but the thing is it's actually like taken on its own merit. It's pretty entertaining, and cute, and fun.
Did you guys do the pervert quest chain?
Are you talking about Ass Ketchum?
Ass Ketchum and the like main dude, the way all that wraps up. Like I don't know if I want to spoil it, but there is like some really freaky.
I'm trying to remember because like it doesn't all unlock at once.
No, there's like the king perverts, or they give him a name.
Yeah.
There's like four perverts.
Yeah. I think I did the first two.
Okay.
Did you do the bomb guy all the way through?
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
That was
I did
good.
that.
Yeah.
Which was a throwback, which was a callback to one of the Yakuzas. That bomb situation has happened before. And then, of course, there was one. I'm not going to spoil it. There was one really, really touching, great continuation from Yakuza 6. It's a side story. I'm not going to say what it is, but it was in there, and I loved it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, Blood was talking about this when he reviewed The Witcher 3, and I'm sure you've gone through it with Yakuza games or like other reviews in general, where like when you're reviewing something, you want to do as much of the side stuff as you possibly can,
But
and
you
then
gotta.
right, and so it's like you in those early. It's funny when you're reviewing something because in like the early days, and this was true for Judgment as well. It was like I'm taking so much time, I'm doing whatever I want, I'm just messing around, I'm seeing everything in the city, and then like a few days passing, you get closer to embargo, and I was like, okay, time to finish the story. And like
definitely.
that valve just turns.
Oh my God, my playtime, because I did so many side quests, was absurd. It was like 40 or 50 hours at least.
Nice.
And to be fair, it did kind of mess up the pacing of the main storyline for me, just doing all that side stuff. Like really obsessing over SP and always eating like after a fight and just really grinding that out.
Well, you talked about it messing up the pacing of the story of the main quest for you, but that's actually one of my biggest complaints about Judgment, just because I've seen it happen in other Yakuza games where like obviously the side quest stuff is really enjoyable in the Yakuza games and it is in Judgment, but sometimes it feels like they kind of like just awkwardly insert it into the main story where they don't need to. I think there can be more of a clear distinction where it's like if you want to focus on the main story, we're going to keep the pacing of that going at a nice clip. And if you want to just go out and sprawling, like sometimes those things intersect. And I think it's okay for them to intersect sometimes, but in multiple Yakuza games, there have definitely been moments where it's like, okay, this fetch quest or like this thing, it's spinning its wheels a little bit, and it just doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Totally. I felt like what really hurt that overall side quest, main quest, pacing, everything about that was the limited mechanics, just really leaning into, all right, you're going to tail this person.
Yeah.
All right, you're going to tail this person now. You're going to tail this person now. You're going to take photos of this. It was just like the same 2 or 3 mechanics, just
Over and over.
repeated.
And I think that was okay. Like, I appreciated in a lot of ways how they tried to have this kind of detective bent to Yakuza. And I thought like having to answer questions during conversations was like a nice way to get you more engaged in conversations, and it didn't take that long. Or like lockpicking didn't take that long. But
Love lockpicking.
But the tailing in particular, and Brad, you said this when you finished, and I agreed with you. The tailing is just way too frequent and way too long for what it is.
So boring, man, and it goes on forever, and
Forever.
it's way too frequent. Like you said, it's like you're going full speed, and it just slams to a halt for like 10 minutes sometimes.
And then especially, like, dude, that happened to me too, Brad, where I, like, did a side quest, or I did, like, 2 of them, and there were, like, 2 tailing missions, then I went to a main quest, and it was another tailing one, and I was just like,
yeah, it's like, I don't want to do this, man.
Well, and especially, like, as the game goes on, they get so long, and you're doing it for a really long time. It's like I get it. Like, I don't know. It's just... It's not that exciting, but I do want to talk to you about the combat, because that was actually something that I ended up being pretty impressed by. Obviously, it's leaning a lot on the formula that it's so clearly established, but I thought the 2 different styles both served a pretty like useful and distinct purpose. I thought the mortal wounds was a really good mechanic. That like, because I think a complaint that we have with Yakuza sometimes is like you get to a point with fights where you're just like not even thinking about it, and it added just a little bit of fear into the fights again. Not perfect, not like you know, this crazy thing, but I appreciated the touch because it was like, oh, getting these supplies, like it really costs a lot, or I have to go to a doctor and that's really expensive. And so I liked that tension to it.
Totally. So top move of the year, death blows, Sekiro, obviously, followed by shotguns in Resident Evil 2, followed by number 3. Running on the wall,
EX,
doing that, not even
where you like kick 3 people.
Oh my god! And even just the normal attack, like running up, kick, running up, punch, addicting. Like there were some fights where I just like kept doing that over and over again.
Yeah, wall run's good.
So fun.
And they've done obviously acrobatic fighters before in Yakuza, but you think of like Kiryu, just kind of like a very big, like in your face kind of guy, and it was fun playing Yagami, and he's like dancing when he fights. It's like
much
he's
more
just
like
so
Majima.
agile. So much more like Majima in Yakuza 0. But it was really really fun.
Just lastly, I just want to just talk to you guys about just the vibes, you know, again, just the serial killer thing, and just like I think it was so intense, just like finding like the crime scene, you know, behind the bar where Yakuza, or where Kazuma always frequents, just like living in this world, this like the underbelly of it, you know. And I know Yakuza, you're always kind of in the underbelly, you know. It's these are Yakuza games, but like there was just something about this one that was just, again, just a little more gritty, a little more dangerous. And it was kind of like you were in it, but at the same time, you were one step removed from it.
Yeah, because you're not a Yakuza, I think.
Right.
Like, you're associated with them and stuff like that, but a guy who, like, put you through law school or whatever.
Yeah. Just really, really great vibe. Like, being in the universe from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And it just nailed that.
My big takeaway from Judgment, and I think it's hard to do an elevator pitch for people who are maybe on the outside, but oh man, I wish more games were capable of doing this. Like, Judgment wins on the quality of its story and writing and characters.
Yes.
And like they just keep getting better at telling stories, because like it's not just about Yagami. Like all the people that he interacts with, like his core kind of like unit, like they all come in and play a significant part, and they're all multifaceted characters, and they all have points of growth, and they just seem so down to earth and relatable. And man, you think like especially in recent years, there have been so many Yakuza games. And like, yeah, there's always new features that you can talk about, but the template is largely the same. It is a lot. You're in Kamurocho, you go, you eat, you have these mini games, you have these side quests. Like it is largely the same, but I am just as invested now as I was, when I first played Yakuza 3 because they're focusing on the basics. They're making, like, when you finish that story, you feel like it's worth it. Like, I hate finish a game and being like, yeah, I didn't really care about that story.
Yeah.
And, like, they're just getting better. And so, like, I think on the outside, I've seen people be like, oh, it's just a Yakuza reskin. And it's like, no, like, in terms of telling a narrative, they go out of their way to make it different than what you've experienced before. And, like, I don't know. I think Yagami stands side by side by a lot of other prominent Yakuza characters, and I really respect them for that. And it's awesome to have this series being like, whatever they do next, I'm excited to see what story they're going to tell.
Totally.
So.
I need to go back now and like check out the Genda law office.
Yeah, see where it
in
is.
like 5 and 6 and see.
Stake it out, dude.
Is that like, are they there right now? Are they there? I need to like peek around. Because that's some prime real estate, dude. Every time I'm in that Genda law office, I'm looking down at the square, just like, man, God, those interiors.
Yeah.
Just existing in Yakuza interiors is one of my favorite things in gaming right now.
Yep. And like using the drone and like peeking in to the different rooms and seeing like what individuals are doing.
So like creepy, dude. Like peeping Tom, dude.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's very, very creepy.
They're supposed to announce a new Yakuza thing at the end of August.
Yeah.
Something's going down.
Something's going down.
We will see.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll be there. Well,
we won't be.
We won't be.
We won't be.
We won't be.
No.
Another one, a big game. I'm really looking forward to. Finally got to play all the way through it. And Brad, you are playing it. It's your first Fire Emblem game.
First, like, really done. I've screwed around very briefly with like the GameCube one.
But this is the first one you're going into.
Yes.
Got it.
Nice.
And that is Fire Emblem Three Houses. And Brad, I know you've only played a little bit of the game, and so I don't want to put too much on you. But I've had the preview, I've had the review, I've kind of gotten to say a lot of what I want to say about Fire Emblem Three Houses. So I just want to talk about, like, how do you feel the opening is? Like, do you feel immediately invested? What sort of things do you like? What sort of things do you have questions on?
I immediately just thought of Huber and just thought Bonds.
Okay.
Bonds. This game has like strong Bond vibes about getting to know these characters.
Shit.
Of course, the battle. It kind of like. I'm not super far in, so it's hard for me to tell. Just my first like vibe is like it reminds me of Persona kind of a lot. Like talking to people like through your academy and just learning more about them and like boosting the stat kind of thing with them or like spending time with them than going out and like fighting on a battlefield with them.
That's
I'm like,
so
this
sick.
is sweet.
And there's permadeath, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there
only
doesn't have to be. So when you start the game,
You could choose.
I was going to save this for the very end, but
it's okay.
this is the one thing I really want to know.
let's dig into it.
Good. So what, like, can you save scum this?
So you don't have to anymore.
Okay.
So classic Fire Emblem, a character dies, you lose them. You would have to save scum in order to get them back if you want to. But things have been tweaked. So you can pick like a difficulty. So you can pick like normal or hard, and that will determine the intensity of battles. Like how difficult it is to get through a battle. I guess is the simplest way of saying that. But then there's another option after that where you can choose classic or casual. Casual, your characters don't die permanently.
Okay.
However,
I want them to be able to die. I want the stakes.
yes, well, there's a whole nother layer now as well that was introduced in Fire Emblem Echoes on 3DS, where even if you choose classic and permadeath is available, you have a new mechanic, from Echoes, you have a mechanic where you can rewind time.
Okay.
And so what that means is you have a limited number of charges, and there are things you can do in the game to increase those number of charges, where, like, let's say a character dies, you can just rewind that and do the turn again and reposition them. So even if you have permadeath turned on, there is a way to
Here's my
work
question.
around that. Yes.
If I want the full experience, permadeath on, and someone dies,
Yeah.
how detrimental is that? Like, will I be because I think of Mass Effect. If you could if you could just all of a sudden rewind and like bring him back, like that's cool. I get that. Play how you want to play. If you don't want that stress, like I really want that stress.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it stresses me out thinking like, well, dude, what if like a couple of my characters die? Like, am I gonna be able to progress in this game, or am I gonna get like stuck?
No, I mean like there's degrees of it, right? But it's kind of actually a slightly difficult question to answer just because of the structure of this game and the way that the story plays out. So I'll try to answer it the best I can. But like in XCOM, for instance, when a character dies, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
But I don't care about that character that much because it's not like there's this grand story surrounding them. The thing about Fire Emblem Three Houses and one of my absolute favorite things about it is like, I legitimately loved everyone in my house and felt like, oh my gosh, like they actually have a pretty elaborate story going on. And so I got to a point where once I got to know all of them,
like if they die,
it was like, I don't want to, like the story that we're telling, I don't want to experience it without them. Like they all feel like valuable contributors.
Like, gives you a real sense of pressure to like not let them die.
Like, imagine you're playing Persona 5 and it's just like
Ryuji's dead.
It would be like that. That's how I felt.
I would reset. I would reset.
Yeah, so there's that, but in terms of a mechanical side of it, it's a little bit more flexible, especially in something like Three Houses, because it's not like this character has to be your magic user or this character has to be your cavalry unit. They have preferences, and it'll be easier to take them down certain paths than others. But because of this whole instruction system, and you're teaching them, and you're slowly building up the skills, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of turning whoever you want to be. And so, like,
if you lose your healer, you can just spec somebody as.
Yeah. I mean, I when somebody went down, I rewound time, but it just based on the flexibility of the system, I feel like you can work around that.
Cool. And does the
to a certain degree,
does the story change? Like, if people start dropping?
There
I
are
have no idea yet.
The way that it works is like there are conversations that you won't be able to have, or like things where like people won't chime in, but like there are like your character and like kind of the leader of the house. You'll go into battle and be like, these guys can't die. Like if they die, you lose.
Okay.
So it's kind of like there's a
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
But with the rewind time mechanic, I feel like losing a character is just like I got to a point where I felt like I had so many charges on rewinding time where it's like
there's no like cap to it. You can just keep gaining them.
Well, there's a cap, but I'm just saying like I earned enough charges, whereas like I have way more than I'll need. Is the general sense that I got.
Got it.
Playing it.
Cool.
So, but yeah. Brad, going back to you, going back to the characters. You were talking about bonds. Do you feel it, I guess, even so early into the game where it's like, hey, I'm early on and I want to form bonds just because like I know that's kind of the mechanics of the game and I want to get those stats, I want to get those support levels up? Or do you feel like even this early on you're actually interested in the characters?
I'm actually interested because I think the game kind of like pushes you in that direction to chat with everyone at the very beginning and like get to know your house, because they make it a big deal about like picking your house. Like, hey, you should get to know everyone from the house. So you like, I talked to everybody from every house. So I was like, okay, I got to kind of understand who these characters are. You get a brief hint about their personalities. There's like the guy that's like a womanizer in my house or whatever, some redhead guy. I'm like, okay, and they got like the guy that's like the bodyguard to the prince or whatever. I'm like, okay, this total Huber character.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of like already invested in their story. They're all pretty likable right off the bat.
I would say even for Fire Emblem as a series, and especially for other games, both Japanese and Western, you have 3 different houses, and so you have a lot of characters, right? And early on, especially, it definitely seems like, oh, like this is going to be this trope. Like this character is just going to be kind of like the meathead, and that's how they're going to be. What I was really surprised about with Three Houses is it's easy to start making assumptions of those characters, and they do present themselves as that, especially at the beginning. But the more time went on and the more conversations they had with different people in the house and with you, it was like, oh, that's not all they are. And I really love that. I really love that it's not just like, oh, this character is just this trope. Like, at least the game is trying to give them more depth, or like, they're like, no, like, yes, this character presents themselves this way, but there's a reason for it. There's something in their past, or there's something that they're worried about, or there's something going on with them that is giving them a little bit more.
Yeah, like they they definitely hint at like stuff immediately about that. Like Dimitri, they like hinted at something like immediately, like dark past. I was like, whoa, dude, it's gonna be Batman.
When you meet Claude, who is the kind of the head of the Golden Deer, they say something along the lines of like he has like sadness in his eyes.
Yeah, yeah. There's like always something like that. You like sense something. It's like, whoa, this is
sad
heavy.
eyes, dude.
Definitely. And
what are the 3 houses?
So it's the Blue Lions, led by Dimitri. Then you have the Black Eagles, the best, led by Edelgard. And then you have the Golden Deer, led by Claude.
Does it kind of give you a little?
Yes. So
before you pick?
What happens in the so you kind of go through this tutorial battle, bandits attack, and you meet these students, and then they're like, come back to the monastery. And so you come back to the monastery, and they're like, you're going to be a professor here, which is kind of funny how quickly that happens.
Yeah, very fast.
Yeah, because you're literally a mercenary going around, you kill some bandits, and then like you become... your father has some history with the monastery.
What's your dad's name?
Oh, God, what is
something
his
with
name?
a J. Anyways, Hubert, you're going to love this guy. I saw this guy, I'm like, oh, this guy's straight out of Vikings.
Why can't I remember his name?
It's like Jarek or something. Gibraltar? Anyways, I just like, dude, Hubert's going to love
look
this
this
guy if Hubert gets to this.
I know, I want to play this game.
But yeah, dude, it reminds me of like you're in because it reminds me of like Harry Potter, dude. Picking your house,
I'm getting Harry Potter, Persona, and FF Tactics.
So
vibes.
Hubert, the place you hang out, the monastery, reminds me of Persona 3 a lot. Like this dormitory you would hang out.
I didn't play Persona 3,
but it's like a dormitory.
Yeah, it's Geralt.
Cool.
It's Geralt. Okay, cool.
Where there's like the guys and the girls like in there, and this like reminds me of like the houses are there all by each other. Oh, it's like Hogwarts kind of vibe.
Sick.
Yeah.
Which house did you go, Brad?
Blue Lions.
Blue Lions. It sounds
It's like holy empire,
knights.
Dude. Like kings. I was like, hell yeah.
Is there? What's the like Hufflepuffs? Who's the scrappy
yellow,
house?
Dude, right? Golden Deer.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like.
I want the underdogs.
The way that I would describe it is like Black Eagles. Edelgard is kind of a Daenerys type figure, where it's like. She very much has this goal in mind and can kind of feel kind of cold about it, where she's like, I will do this. Dimitri, I would say, is like the most nobleman-like, where he's like presenting himself as like, oh, I'm very nice and pleasant, but it seems like there's some problems that he's working through in his current situation, some shame that he's harboring. And then there's Claude, who's like kind of this trickster. He's kind of like
happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, he's kind of more of the goofball in the sense where he's like, he's the one that's going to be cracking the jokes. He's the one, but you know, he's doing that for his own gain at the same time. And so, you know, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of sour with all of them, for sure. But another thing that I want to say about how the game builds relationships is I always find it frustrating when, like, you know, you get party members together and they just immediately like each other, and it's like you've known each other for like 5 seconds and you're best friends, you're ready to save the world. Three Houses doesn't do that really, where like there are characters that really don't like each other, or it's like, hey, I'm a commoner and you're a nobleman and you don't understand my life at all. And like they will express that, and they really have to work, and over time they'll chip away that relationship and come to an understanding. And so when they do become best friends, it's like, okay, there was a path here. It didn't just happen. And so that's really, really cool.
Bonds,
dude. Ryuji and Morgana.
Bonds.
Yeah. Huber. Not Huber. Brad. Visually, what do you think about the game?
540p?
No. It looks okay. Like, I don't have like a ton of context from past Fire Emblem games because I haven't played them in so long. It looks okay.
Yeah.
I'm not like, ugh, when I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's fine. Yeah. I'm like, it's Switch. My expectations are very in check, like what to expect from a Switch game.
Sure.
It looks fine. Like, it looks better than Marvel. That's for sure.
Yeah.
My
favorite thing ever is when, what game did you stop playing?
Xenoblade.
Yeah, dude.
Xenoblade, the only game I think that's ever done that to me.
Yep.
Which is a shame because it's an awesome game. I just couldn't get into it at the time.
So good.
It just hurts Ben because I know he loves Xenoblade.
Xenoblade Chronicles 1 in particular is
I just couldn't
pretty fantastic.
at the time. I couldn't stand it. Yeah, I couldn't stand it.
I mean, I get it. I do think the environments in that game, just like the art design of them.
It wasn't even just the environments. It was like the characters and everything, and just didn't jive with me at the time.
Yeah. No, I mean there are things in
back,
Xenoblade that are rough.
Probably.
Like the inventory is a mess in that game. But,
yeah, and like.
I do think the environments are spectacular.
But I played 2 though. redemption,
Yeah.
kind of.
Redemption.
Yeah, 2 and 1 are so different.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
very different games. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off track. Back to Fire Emblem. Brad, obviously you haven't had a chance to experience combat that much, but anything like...
I like the battle animations.
Yeah, the battle animations are
Yeah, they're
it's-
pretty sweet.
Yes, it's something that I haven't really gotten to, I haven't brought up, but I do think the battle animations for the different weapons, the critical animations in particular, very, very good.
Yeah.
They look at, and it's a nice transition. It's like,
it's
once
smooth.
you do the attack and you go in, it is very
Yeah,
smooth.
because like you telling me how it used to be, you would turn them off in past games because it would take so long.
Yeah, well,
And like Damiani would do that too.
right, like on the 3DS titles, you'd be on this 2D map, and then it would like do this like, and it would transition into 3D, and that got a little bit too long.
Yeah, I think this is pretty fast.
Yeah, and the fact that you're holding down a button and fast forwarding through
Yeah.
them. Yeah, it's. I did eventually turn them off, or if it was like not an important battle, I would turn them
Sure.
off. But I didn't find them egregious.
Sure,
in
yeah.
any capacity.
Yeah.
Brett, I think something a lot of people are worried about is if you're not that familiar with Fire Emblem or strategy games, is it overwhelming? Is it intimidating?
No, I don't think it's overwhelming. Yeah. Like I've played my fair strategy games, but I think the game does a good enough job easing you into it. I don't know anything about Fire Emblem. Like what I know from Fire Emblem is from Smash.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm missing out in the world at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, if I played the DS version, I would totally get this kind of thing like that. Like I'm totally fine. I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
Is it like hopping into just a new Final Fantasy? Familiar sights and sounds, but completely new story and game?
Well, like it's kind of like Final Fantasy in the sense where you run into familiar beats where it's like just like items that are familiar or like just kind of the general flow of combat, I guess, is familiar. But yeah, totally new world, storyline, characters, all that. And that's actually something that I do want to bring up. Like I think Fire Emblem is actually like so incredibly easy to get into.
Yeah.
Especially
It seems
now
like it.
with the rewind mechanic and all of that stuff. Like
And there's normal and hard and classic and
There's
casual.
normal and
there's
hard.
normal
I think.
and hard.
Yeah.
And then
big
you
depth.
and then you do classic or casual. Got it.
And it's I don't know if this would really be a spoiler, but I actually think the New Game Plus is really, really cool.
Nice.
And
Love a good new
without
game plus.
maybe giving too much away, once you get into New Game Plus, you can you have this currency basically where you can spend it to kind of put yourself ahead more quickly. And so that's just kind of fun where it's
Yeah,
just,
it's a
oh, hey,
cool
I've
little
already
thing.
done this. I can, if I want to keep playing or experience, a different side of the story,
Yeah.
I can just do that more easily.
I really appreciate how this game's not split up into like 3 different games or 2, like their
Yes.
past game.
Yes.
It's like, thank God, man. Don't
Yeah.
make me buy 2 of them or whatever.
Yeah, and Brad, that was actually like kind of a thing that I ran into with Fire Emblem Fates, where I started with Birthright, and there were definitely things I liked about Birthright, but I felt kind of like lukewarm on it as a whole. Like it just wasn't that exciting to play through in terms of story and in terms of like map design and challenge and all that stuff. And then like Conquest was so much better, but it was weird being like, oh man, I wish I would have played this first, and like having it. So it's nice in Three Houses where I kind of feel like no matter what you pick, you're gonna get a really solid experience.
Yeah.
And then if you want more, it'll be fun jumping out and experiencing.
Don't gotta buy another game,
for
dude.
sure. Yeah, definitely.
Do that with Pokemon.
Do that with just put them all in one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different
Like,
because like
it'll never happen, but
yeah,
I
it's
would
different with
love that.
Pokemon because like it's not dramatically changing the story, but
Just give me all those Pokemon, baby.
in the
Just
same
give me
way.
all in one.
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Guys,
Endgame.
Endgame.
Every
That's
Pokemon
right.
ever.
I want to talk about something that has just been delightful. And I was playing it when it first came out, and then I was playing it the day after
14?
as well. No,
I wish.
Yeah, I wish, man. 14, me playing 14 comes up every time, and it's just like, that would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But it's not happening right now. But no, the Dragon Quest Hero came out in Smash, dude.
Oh, yeah. I didn't get
Yeah,
to play it yet.
yeah. And
Oh, yes.
I mean, obviously, I was really excited about it, but actually getting hands-on with it and playing it, I felt kind of giddy because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they did it this way. And what I really love about the design of the hero is it's like they tried to fit as much Dragon Quest in as they possibly could. That's with obvious stuff like you being able to pick 4 different protagonists from 4 different games, but also in the different skins where it's like, obviously there's a reference to this, there's a reference to that, but the moveset, man, the moveset is so cool. This is such a weird character. He's so weird. So obviously he has a sword, and then he has special moves that he can do, that he can charge up.
Does he have some old classics? Like
yes, so you, like your basic neutral special move you can charge up is Frizz.
Cool.
And like you get different levels of it as you charge it up, and then when it's at maximum level, it's this giant fireball that leaves a trail of fire on the ground.
Frizz?
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, I forget what it was called.
Sizzle? Sizzle?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, is it?
I think Sizzle's different.
I think Sizzle is a group.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Sizzle's a group.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You
have that one too?
So yeah, we'll get to it.
Dude.
But you have Frizz, which you can charge up, then you have Zap, which you can charge up, and that's really cool because you get like a Pikachu thunder effect. But he also, if you charge it all the way up, does like this slash that you get, and then you get Whoosh, which allows you to recover. You can actually recover pretty well from it, but you can charge all of these things up, and that's cool. But like kind of things that you've seen before with other characters. What really makes the hero unique is when you hit down B, you get a random list of spells, and they all do completely different things. So like one of them is Sizz that you can just throw out there, and some of them are basic.
Awesome.
So you get like a heal, and then there's like Psych Up, which you can also just pick from the menu and
Psych
use.
Up, man.
Yes.
Dude. Does that have tiers? Psyching
Psych-
up?
No, there's so
don't think
the
it's gonna be,
way
like,
the
Super
way that it
Saiyan
works,
8.
there's Oomph, which will increase your
Damage.
attack, but then Psych Up, it'll be like, okay, this will just greatly increase the attack of your next move. I believe is how it works.
Dude,
it's
so
a little
cool.
hard keeping it all straight just because there are so many spells. But yeah, I believe Oomph is you will get increased damage for a number of time, and then it's just like Psych Up is just your next attack.
That's so great.
Yeah, that
Which,
is cool.
you know, obviously, like
Yeah.
Psych Up in Dragon Quest VIII, working that way.
Too
but
cool. We
yeah.
live in a world when this is just like business as usual. Oh,
Right.
Dragon Quest in Smash?
Cool.
Business as usual.
But the reason I think it's so exciting is it just kind of leads to it's actually hard to do in the frantic nature of a Smash battle. It's hard to like get exactly the spell that you want, because when you hit down B, you don't know what your options are going to be. And sometimes it's just like, I'm going to hit down B and pick the first thing that comes up. And then you have something like Hocus Pocus, where it's like, this could be good or bad. I might turn giant, or I might like fall asleep. I don't know. And I love that, especially when you're not trying to take it too seriously and you're just competing. I feel like there are so many like crazy moments. Like you have Kamikaze where like you will lose a stock, but if you hit your opponent, they will lose a stock very likely. So
my style.
yeah, it's just really chaotic and fun, and it's like there is no other character I can think of in Smash that is operating like this. It feels very true to Dragon Quest and the wide list of spells that are available. And it's like they could have just done like super basic shit. Like his down B could have just been like a counter.
Flame
and then
slash, miracle slash.
Yeah, and then you
like-
just get like fire and electricity and wind. And like that'd be fine. And yes, that would be true to Dragon Quest, but this feels like a way better implementation. That speaks, I think, to some of the quirkier aspects of the series in a really cool way.
What's his alt?
His alt.
Yeah, this is Final Smash.
Oh, his final. So it's Giga Slash. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I thought
Giga
you
Slash.
meant ALT, not ULT.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Giga slash.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
Giga Slash. So
Giga
that's
Slash.
Giga Gash.
Giga Gash.
That's
yeah.
really cool because you get all of the heroes from all the Dragon Quest. It's kind of like a Mega Man style.
Cool.
Where they all come. Yes. So you get everybody together and they're like,
That's sick, yeah.
Yeah. So you see everybody.
Dude,
Yeah.
I need to play this.
Yes. It's really fun. And so moving on, I guess, beyond the hero and his moveset as well, I feel like I could just keep talking about it and how cool the implementation is. But the stage is really neat as well. So it's Yggdrasil's altar, and it's just a really cool stage where it's like you start at kind of the base, and then it lifts up and it rotates around, and you're going around the world tree, and you see the giant whale, you see a village in the background, a slime will come out and pop up. The taunts are also really good. One of the taunts is like him trying to like move around a slime, which is really cool. And yeah, so the stage is just gorgeous, and it's nice like that the background keeps kind of changing and you're seeing a variety of things.
Is
It
the
just makes it
music
visually interesting.
the theme?
There's a variety. I actually, that's one thing going into this conversation that I wish I had a better handle on is I should have gone to seen all the music that is in, but I've just been kind of playing.
Yeah.
And so I'm not like, there's a variety of Dragon Quest music. Cool. I'm not sure how much there is or what they're specifically pulling from, but so I need to look at that and just go into the.
I'm sure the main theme is used. Yeah, because they use it every time,
every chance they get.
Every Dragon Quest trailer is that song.
But beyond that, though, the classic mode is really, really cool, and they've done a great job with that in classic mode. Obviously, referencing the series, but like the final fight that you do in classic mode, and just starting out, and you just have like a bunch of different colored Kirby's acting as like there's stand-ins for slime, and like cool. It being the first battle that you do. It's just like, oh, this is perfect. Like this is a great way to do it, and so it's just really fun to mess around with. And like at one point, man, you just fight Rathalos as the hero from Dragon Quest.
Yes.
And like I had that moment where I was like, I'm on a hunt as a Dragon Quest protagonist fighting Rathalos, throwing Deku nuts to serve as flash bombs to stun the Rathalos so I can go in and do like, you know, a Dragon Quest spell on him. It's really cool.
It's too cool.
It's just a great celebration. So the other thing that you can do with DLC heroes, and you can do this with Joker as well, is you can go and do spirit challenges. And so basically it's like, hey, do this fight. There'll be some unique thing about this fight. And you'll get a spirit as a result. And then they increase in difficulty. So like some spirits are stronger than others. But like for Dragon Quest, for example, you are basically fighting all of the playable characters in Dragon Quest XI. And it's like this gauntlet of a fight. So you're fighting on your initial stage. You start out, you're fighting one stand-in for a party member, then it keeps building, and it's actually like really challenging and fun to do. And so I think overall what I'm trying to say is like they didn't just throw this character into a game and they didn't make him like all of the other sword characters that are already so dominant in Smash. It's like they took their time to like implement the hero in a way that feels like they really love Dragon Quest.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I'm not just playing this because I want to play Smash. I'm playing this because I enjoy Dragon Quest, and this feels like a fun outlet for that as a fan.
Awesome. That's great.
So that's really, really cool.
Is this the last character? How many more characters are coming?
There's Banjo's coming.
Banjo's coming.
And then I don't know how many more after
maybe
that.
two more? Two or one, I believe.
Waluigi, last character.
Well, I don't think it'll be Waluigi, but that'd be incredible.
I feel like Geralt would be a really good fit, too. I know he's been like guest starring in like what feels like every game now, but
hey,
I think he'd be a good fit.
Still holding out for Solaire.
They did a great job with him in Soul Calibur 6, man.
Yeah.
They really did. They crushed it.
Still waiting for Solaire.
Man, Dragon Quest. Like, I feel like this whole thing is just, I mean, from my perspective, like for me too, like kind of taking it for granted, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's just like really need to just stop and think like, dude, Dragon Quest and Smash like together, you know? It is such a big thing, but I just think because of the era we are in right now when there's so many crossovers and dreams are happening, dreams are reality.
You're saying just because the crossovers are happening so much, like this doesn't...
It doesn't feel
as crazy.
It doesn't feel as special as I think it really is. Mm-hmm. Like this is a really, really cool collaboration.
Yeah, and I think that's something obviously everybody's busy, do what you can, but I think that was kind of the process that I went through where it's like I was looking forward to it. I knew I was going to check it out, but then and even hearing me describe it, I don't think like really sums it up as well. Like you are going to be giddy. Like there are going to be moments where you're like, oh, I can't believe they did that. And so even if you only get to play him for like a half hour, an hour or something, I think you'll take away a lot from it for sure. And yeah, one last question. So Smash is one of those games, like many games, where like every time I play it, I'm like, why am I not playing this all the time? Like I enjoy it so much. I love.
We try to.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel, both of you, about Smash Ultimate? You know, now that it's been out for a while, like has your opinion on it changed? Do you feel more of a drive to go back to it, less of a drive?
Smash for me, I much prefer to play with just like local with people. Like I don't like playing Smash really that much by myself, so I don't play it that much by myself. But like, I feel really good about this Smash. I think it's the best, obviously the best roster that it had because it's the same.
Yeah,
I feel good about it. I don't look back on it like I look back on the Wii one or anything like that. I'm just like, it was okay. But I feel really good about this one right now, and just cast is just blowing me away.
Yeah. I played a lot of. I actually played a lot of 64 Melee, Brawl. I didn't play as much Smash 4, and I've enjoyed all of them.
Yes.
And you always doubt yourself because it's like the new one, but I really feel like despite how much I've enjoyed past Smash games, I feel like Ultimate is my favorite one.
Well, to me, it felt like, when we went from Melee to Brawl, to me, I felt like Melee's still, more superior, I'd feel like, mechanic-wise.
Yeah.
But, I just love Brawl because it's just fun.
Right. And, there's a ton in Melee. There's a ton of great stages. For the time, I think its roster is pretty good. But the thing about, mechanically Melee being superior, and, the speed is obviously there and you can feel it. But, I was never able to do a lot of, the upper tier things. So I was never able to appreciate the game in that way other than, watching people do it. And so I think just in terms of roster mechanics, everything else, Smash Ultimate, I just never get sick of playing it, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I just play Smash for the characters. Yeah. So it has the most, therefore it's my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough to really dive into the nitty gritty mechanics.
I think the character implementation's been better too, as they've gone on, like you said, with the hero, his mechanics tying into the games a lot better.
Yeah.
I think Cloud tied in pretty well for at the time what they're doing with that.
So
cool.
I can't wait to see what Banjo's moveset is and stuff like that.
I want to see Geralt versus Cloud, dude. Swords clashing.
Swords clashing. Sekiro in there.
Brad, a game that we have started together. We want to play through it together, but we've just been. We got it very late. We got access to it very late, and then Easy Living came up, and then things keep coming up. It keeps getting pushed, but that is Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Right.
I wouldn't say I have mixed feelings about this game, but it's kind of a weird game in a lot of ways.
Yes. I could totally see that. To me, it hasn't really excited me.
Exactly.
In any way. I'm just okay. That's just it's there's nothing wrong with it necessarily that I've experienced so far. We're not super far in.
We are not.
But I'm not blown away. I'm not super engaged in it or anything like that. Which is kind of a shame because Wolfenstein's such a story-driven game. But we're not far, like I said. But I'm just I don't really like the mechanic of switching weapons that much. Yeah. I feel like it doesn't lend itself too well to Wolfenstein. I think in Doom it works better, switching weapons really fast. But in Wolfenstein, switching a weapon to use against, armor, I'd feel like it isn't as fluid. To me, it just kind of feels more clumsy.
Yeah, it hasn't bothered me that much, but I agree with you. There have just been times where it's okay, this type of bullet against this type of armor would be really effective. I don't have ammo for that type. And so it's okay, I feel like I'm doing almost nothing to this enemy. And so that's when it gets to be a little bit of a bummer. I do really like the Blazkowicz daughters.
Yes.
I think their characterization is really fun, but...
To me, they're just goofy teenagers.
Yeah,
and I think it shows.
They're definitely goofy teenagers. But I don't know. I wonder if, because it's a co-op game, there have definitely been times where it's okay, we're going to try to sneak, but because there's two of us, it's easier to get found. And so, every time we try to sneak, it just, immediately turns into a firefight.
Yeah.
And... part of me just and you can play the single player, admittedly, but part of me just wonders if this would have been better as a single player game where you could have a few more options and it wouldn't be as hard to coordinate things. And it's cool that there are boxes where only the two of you can open them up, or it does the co-op thing where it's hey, to get past this door, I gotta hit it, and it's oh, come on, Brad, let's go over and open this door. And it's that's fine, but it just feels like it kind of slows things down in a way where it's okay, I'm going to go to this door, and then you need to go and you need to find the code.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything really yet where I'm dude, that was super rad because it was co-op.
Right. And so it feels like it's just kind of taking Wolfenstein and then applying a pretty by-the-numbers co-op thing. However, what I will say, though, is much like Wolfenstein 2, you can still go down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like
totally.
it's that
game
exactly.
was so much harder than I was anticipating.
Yeah. And so it's not a complete cakewalk. But...
No. Enlighten me, Ben. Tell me if you think this is a fair criticism.
Okay.
saw some criticisms that just kept comparing it to Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah.
Is it now? I know it's the next game, but it's this weird co-op spin-off that's only $30. It's on a full $60, so it's half the price. It's a spin-off. It's co-op, but every negative thing I just keep seeing is like, well, it's not as good as 2. Well, it's not as good as 2. Well, it didn't reach the heights of 2. I'm not as emotional as I was in Wolfenstein. You know, everyone was just like harping on like it's not as good, it's not as good, it's not as good. Do you think that's fair to compare and criticize it for that, or should we be treating it as its own weird thing?
Here's what I think it comes down to, Huber.
Yeah.
It's about conditioning your audience. And what I mean by that is with New Order and then especially New Colossus, sometimes it's hard to remember those titles.
Yeah,
but New Order and the
both,
New Colossus, what they did is they were like, this is strictly a single-player game, and we're going to go really hard on the story. And that's especially, too, it is a super serious game.
Yeah.
It is. And with Youngblood, it seems like they're still trying to tell a pretty serious story. Maybe not as serious as 2, but you're going from this very story-driven single-player experience to this co-op experience, and it's just like it's throwing you off a little bit because like you're trying to care about the story, but then you're like talking to your friend on the headset, and so it's like, not that that's a bad thing, but it's just like, okay, I was coming to Wolfenstein to really pay attention to the story. It's harder to pay attention to the story now because of this new thing, and it's harder to like play this the way that I used to play Wolfenstein. And so it's like, it's not that any of this is bad on its own. It's just you've kind of grown to expect a certain thing from Wolfenstein, especially when it's using the same characters in the same world. I think it would be different if this wasn't called Wolfenstein. You wouldn't have those expectations constantly fighting against you. And it's not like bad because it's different, but it is. Sometimes it's hard to, when you're conditioned to expect something a certain way, to kind of just move away from that.
Yeah, I wonder, because, like, you know, they went in this completely different route, and I remember when Old Blood came out, which was the prequel, which was so sick, but then I remember those criticisms were like, it's the same thing, just not as good. It's always just like, and now they tried something different, and it's like, well, it's not that. So it's.
Here's what I'll say, Hubert, is to me they've treated this like a much bigger deal than Old Blood.
Yeah.
Like Old Blood was just like, here it is, quietly
felt like
DLC,
a little expansion.
But like they're treating this like how they've presented it as like a full like the next big Wolfenstein game.
So higher expectations.
I don't want to mischaracterize the way that I feel about this game, because when we're playing it, Brad, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, we're having fun playing it.
But I think that lack of excitement is also there, where it's like I'm having a good time because it's like a solid co-op experience, but it just doesn't feel as unique as something like Wolfenstein 2 did, where it's like this game has a super weird identity. The identity of Youngblood doesn't feel as strong. And I'm still having a good time. But it's just not like registering with me as hard. And I think about Resident Evil 5. And I think Resident Evil 5 is kind of a brilliant game to bring up, because Resident Evil 5, in my opinion, is awesome. It is an awesome game. I had a blast playing it with a friend. We played it in like 2 sittings. We loved it. But it's because we were able to detach ourselves. I think, especially when you compare it directly to Resident Evil 4, I think a lot of the complaints and frustrations around Resident Evil 5 make a lot of sense. Where, like, Resident Evil 4, especially being this huge pivotal game that it was, like, Resident Evil 5 is not even remotely a scary game.
No.
It's not. I'm sorry. No. Like, there are moments of tension for sure, but the flavor of it is so different. And I think when you've been conditioned by Resident Evil 4, and especially the past Resident Evil games, it can be a hard thing to accept. And so I think those criticisms are very valid, where it's like, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just doesn't feel as special anymore. So I think that's why something like Resident Evil 7 does so well and is so universally beloved, where it's like, you did go in a new direction, but you carried the identity with you. Yeah. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of the big identity of Resident Evil is going in alone. And when you're with a buddy going through a game together, it's going to be 100% less scary.
Yeah.
Like, you will not be terrified. The
Yeah.
tension will be reduced heavily.
Totally.
And I think that's the weird thing about Youngblood is like the two Blazkowicz daughters are kind of goofy, but then when you get done with a mission and it's like, okay, time to like really pay attention to the story, it feels a little weird. Like it's presenting the story like Wolfenstein 2.
Super serious.
Right, and so I almost wonder if it would be better if it just went like full goofball and like didn't have those interstitial cutscenes, like just kept things moving a little bit more. I don't know. It's I'm not certain that any of these things would solve the problems. Just trying to theorize.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to feel tension in the game when we're going like, hell yeah, dude, and like doing this to each other, like thumbs up. And like it's cool because I like it because they're sisters and they have a bond like that, but it's just like hard for me to be afraid.
Yeah. I also really respect the idea that they tried to mess with their progression system because that's something I've despised in the Wolfenstein 1 and 2. Like, forcing you to play a certain way to get those skill points when now... But I've heard really bad things about this progression too. But at least they like tried something different to shake it up.
I want to talk about the progression system, and I feel this way in almost any game that does this. Like it's not the end of the world. I can get over it. But so early, you get like these points, these coins that you can spend on progression, where it's like, okay, you need 1 point to get this skill, you need 5 points to get this skill, so on and so forth. Early on, there are like a couple of things where it's like, hey, you got a new skill point, you can spend it on this thing. That's great. But then you get to a point where it's like, hey, Brad, did you spend any of your skill points? You're like, no, I only have 2 and I need like five. And like, I hate that because then you just forget about it. And then it's like, it eliminates the excitement of getting that skill point in the first place where it's like, oh, cool, I got it. Like, I'll have to do this 2 more times to even get a new ability.
Well, and it's because it was for the cloak ability that which you started with.
Yeah.
So Ben would like go off in stealth, and I was just kind of like hanging around waiting for him to like get caught or clear out the way for me to come in.
Right, and it's like if
I'm just
Brad
standing
wants
there
to do
dicking
that,
around, I
he
have to
needs
wait.
like 3, like so he's got to kind of save up, and so you don't get that immediate sense of progression that I think maybe you would want.
Yeah, from a game like that, like I don't want to grind in that game forever.
Right.
I don't think that's what that game's about. I'm not playing Destiny here.
Yeah. Either just like get rid of the progression altogether, or like I don't know.
Yeah.
Wolfenstein 3.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of like, and this is a super nitpicky thing, but there's not a lot of like celebration when you level up. Like like you have to like specifically stop what you're doing in a co-op game, go into this menu and do it. Where like, I don't know, it kind of messes with the flow sometimes.
Oh yeah,
I think because then you could also upgrade weapons as well, and so yeah, it's
to
weird.
take a bit. Yeah, like going through everything.
Yeah,
And I heard it's like 20 or 30 hours or something.
Good lord.
Maybe for everything.
I how long to beat it, and it said like 10-ish.
Okay,
so,
maybe that's just everything.
I was
then.
like, is that really necessary?
yeah. So
Like, come on, man.
you know, take all of these opinions, I guess, with a grain of salt, because we're
Definitely,
still very
we
early
haven't
on.
finished the game.
And I don't know when we're going to be able to get back to it, to be honest with you. But yeah.
To end on a high note,
Yeah.
I was just because I was looking into Youngblood the other day because there was a copy lying around. I want to get to it and play with a buddy of mine. I was just like looking at Machine Games and id and I was just looking at like Wolfenstein franchise and Doom franchise and how long those franchises have lasted, how they have adapted to modern gaming, and just like how they're both, Youngblood aside, like they're both in such a great place. And it's 2019. Like I never would have thought as a kid like that we'd be here now, you know?
Doom.
It's just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Wolfenstein and Doom, dude.
Doom Eternal is coming.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
Doom Eternal.
one-
Dude,
is
you
like
open up
the real deal.
you open up the Wolfenstein box and there's like Doom Eternal right there. It's like shit.
Yeah. Oh, demons.
So, Huber,
Yes.
there was nobody actually said anything that got us caught in a frame trap this time, but you did a gesture that
Hands
did trigger the caught in a frame trap. So when I was talking about Resident Evil 5,
Yes.
you went back and did this, and that actually immediately, like magnets, summons the demons. So they're like on you right now, and you just can't see or feel them.
Like germs.
Yeah. Conjuring, dude.
Wash up.
For our cut in a frame trap this time, we're bringing back an old, I don't know if it's a classic or a favorite, but we're
old
bringing it back.
classic.
Yeah, We're going to do real or fake.
Oh, I love real or fake.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad.
This is fun. These are the kind of games I like. Dude.
Yeah. Playing Shrek on the original Xbox with you guys was a trip, and I didn't even see all of it, but...
you didn't miss much.
Yeah. Shrek games have weird titles, man. And so this real or fake, you're going to have to tell me if this Shrek game actually exists or if it doesn't.
Okay.
So the first to say real or fake, if you're right, you will get a point on the board.
Okay.
Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
I think we're just going to go right into it. All right. So the first real or fake Shrek game. Number 1, Shrek, Fairy Tale Freakdown.
It's got to be fake.
Yeah, I'd say it's fake.
That's real. Neither of you get a point. Shrek Fairy
system?
Tale Freakdown is
DS.
a real game.
Gotta be DS.
I didn't put the platform for all of these. I think Shrek Fairy Tale Freakdown
Sounds like a GameCube game.
I think it's a Game Boy Advance game. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure. Fun fact, received a 0.5 from Game Informer.
Wow!
It just had that, like there was a list of games, and it just had, like, an annotated note on Wikipedia. Like, they 0.5 from Game Informer.
Wow.
Yeah, Shrek Fairy Tale Freakdown is
Did
real.
it, like, blow up in their Game Boy or something?
It's 0.5.
It's crazy.
The next one, Shrek Extra Large.
Fake.
That sounds real.
Huber's on the board.
Damn.
It's real. It is a port of the original Xbox game for
Oh.
the GameCube.
God dang it.
That's the one that we were
Yeah,
talking
the
about the whole
superior
time.
version
yeah,
with Donkey.
dude.
Shrek Extra Large. Number 3, Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy.
That's
Fake.
fake.
That is real.
No, Beg for Mercy, dude!
Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy. It's a Game Boy Advance game that stars Puss in Boots, I believe.
Beg for Mercy.
Shrek 2
I thought that was
Beg
like a WWE
for
game.
Mercy.
What the hell?
Yep. I told you these were weird, man.
God.
All right. Number 4,
We have to tell Kyle about that one, dude.
Shrek Wreaking Havoc.
I'm just say real.
I'm going to give you both a point.
Like, I'm going to believe anything's real at this point.
Number 5, last one, Shrek Farting Up the Wrong Tree.
Fake.
That is fake.
Okay.
I'm going to give you both a point.
Farting up the wrong tree.
That was a title that I just made up.
I cannot believe.
But, like, it
Beg
could be
for
real.
Mercy
Beg
is
for
Shrek
real.
2.
Beg for
Shrek
Mercy.
2.
Is that
Beg
rated?
for Mercy.
Is that rated M?
No.
It's going to be a hard E.
Here, I'm going to
Hard E
show
for
you
everyone.
Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy. Just
T
to-
for
just
teen
to
at
prove to you
least.
that it is real. Look at and it doesn't even start Shrek. It starts Puss in Boots. Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy.
Rated E.
Dude.
Rated E.
Exclamation mark.
Is that? It's been so long now. Is that Puss in Boots like catchtrade or something? Beg for mercy.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. Don't
Hey,
ask
Puss
me
in
about
Boots,
Shrek
though.
lore.
Yeah, Puss in Boots was fun at
That's
the
a good
time.
one, yeah.
I don't know how it holds up. But
All right.
True.
So Huber, you won 3-2 on the Shrek Real or Fake. You were gonna have to break us out of this frame trap. I'd actually prefer if you could do like some Shrek oriented breakout, and I'm gonna give you some time to think about it because this wonderful game was brought to you by some lovely sponsors. Our first sponsor is Greg, the Dark Knight Kettering. Thank you, Greg. Next, we have Zoteg. Do you play Final Fantasy XIV? Are you in the Crystal Data Center? Search at Zoteg, that is XOTIG, on Twitter for a link to an Easy 8 Crystal Discord server. Thank you, Zoteg. Next, we have JoJo's Dent Co. After that, we have Accounts Payable, who, as always, will give us a free shout-out to anything. Brad, is there anything you want to shout out?
Shout out to Squall.
Squall.
Shout out Squall.
Nice. I just think of like ...
Dot.
..... Okay.
Whatever.
Next, we have Gift of Heaven. Gift of Heaven is a free 3DS RPG which strives to be as funny as Earthbound, efficient as Chrono Trigger, and epic as Final Fantasy VI. Gift of Heaven quadruples every data limit of RPG Maker FES using passwords to unite 4 game files as one bold explosion. O.M. Huckstelter is cooking up the rip-roaring, full-blast, Tolkien, Potter, Forrest Gump combo meal you deserve to eat, and them Huckstelters don't skimp on the shrimp. Gift of Heaven's 43-minute promotional short film, Symphonia Anathema, is now available on the official Gift of Heaven YouTube channel. You can download the prologue August 7th via the RPG Maker FES 3DS app. Crunch time is here, and the pain is brutal. I must keep reminding myself that I'm on a holy mission. I want to change the world, but more importantly, I seek the Hall of Greats. Next, we have a brand new sponsor. This sponsor is Rob Bob Will, who would like to promote the Scleroderma Foundation, which is a qualified national nonprofit whose primary goal is to raise funds for their threefold mission of support, education, and research. Scleroderma is a rare chronic connective tissue disease, most commonly characterized by hardening of the skin. The foundation has 20 active chapters and 160 support groups across the U.S. Find out more at a link in the description. And we have another new sponsor. We have two new sponsors this episode. Alex AI, actually a returning sponsor. Thank you, Alex AI. Looking for a fun NES game with a memorable soundtrack? Check out Shatterhand, Soul Brain in Japan, and support the Allies. But we're not done.
Oh, shoot. Let's go.
We have the mega sponsor, ViewSonic. You probably know ViewSonic is the California-based company that's been one of the world's leading monitor providers for the past 30 years. Now with ViewSonic Elite, they're bringing gamers an expansive line of professional gaming monitors. Whether you want to play like the pros on the esports stage or become immersed in the action set in front of you, ViewSonic Elite has you covered with a range of powerful specs and minimalist designs that are a tasteful addition to any modern PC setup. Learn more about ViewSonic Elite, new product releases, and upcoming giveaways on social media by following @ViewSonic Gaming or visiting viewsonic.com/elite. Huber, it is time. Are you ready to break us out of the frame trap?
Yeah, I'm ready. Donkey! Get us out of here! He got us out.
All right, Shrek. Kicks it.
Huber, I was going to say something like whether or not he got us out. I like that you just like put the...
He got us out.
Yeah, the pin in it. He did get us out. Yeah.
He's a professional.
That's good.
Donkey would leave no one
Teleportation.
Huber, it is time to talk about a game. And I love this. It's always like one of my favorite things in Frame Trap. When somebody brings something, I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is. Yes. What is 1980X?
I'm so pumped to talk about this with you guys.
Yeah, I don't know what this is either.
I'm so friggin' excited, guys. I played this last night, one sitting. It's an hour long, hour and a half.
Normally we don't get that privilege.
Guys, this game hit me last night. I was feeling this so hard. Okay, the reviews are a little weird, but I think that has to do with expectations. So this was a Kickstarter game. Mm-hmm. It's been going for a while now. And again, it's an hour long. So before we even dive in, I can imagine kind of like maybe some disappointment if you were kickstarting a game for a couple years and then finally it comes out and it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But this is a game. It is a love letter nod. It's a nod to video games, to our youth. It is wrapped in nostalgia. And there's just this melancholy vibe to the whole thing. You're in kind of this cyberpunky, again, it's called 1980X. So you're in kind of this reality. And you are the kid. And it's got a retro look. So it's super retro looking. And basically the game is she's living in the city, some tragedy went down, and they find escape in video games, you know? So you play, the way you play the game is just retro games. So it's like, there'll be cutscenes in the real world, like kind of like still animation and kind of just like those old kind of 16-bit, like, you know, when you beat like Streets of Rage or something, it kind of looks like that vibe, you know? So, for example, like one of the first ones is you walk down and see an arcade machine and it's like, you know, staring at the arcade machine and then all of a sudden you're playing that game and it's a classic beat 'em up that feels so good. There's a beat 'em up. There's a shoot 'em up. The shoot 'em up feels so good. There's a game like Outrun. So there's like 4 or 5, I think there's 5 games in here. They don't last very long. Remember, the whole game is a little over an hour. And that's maybe a point of criticism too, is like when the game starts getting going, all right, it's over. You know, right. The beat 'em up, like the criticisms are like limited moves, limited enemy types.
Right.
So like every game ends
like
up
one stage from all these different genres.
A couple stages.
Okay.
Yeah. So the beat 'em up is like a couple stages.
Got it.
You know, you can pick up like a bat. Everything feels so great. The visuals and the mood and the vibe is really what I want to drive home. I mean, play this game at night, put your headphones on, and just get lost in the nostalgia and the love of video games. That's it. That's really all I got to say about this game. Hour and a half, $10. Sign in. Drop in.
So
1980X. Platinum trophy too. Hard platinum, but a ton of like easy golds.
selling a game.
I only care about the platinum. Damn it.
True.
Well, no, those golds help. Those golds help.
Those.
It's not about the score, baby. It's about the little platinum number going.
See, I'm
up.
complete opposite. I'm volume. Play as many games as possible. Get as many trophies as possible.
I do, but
the platinums.
You can't beat the platinum.
What if the world ends and like our overlord values us based on our trophies? Will we survive?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So talking about 1980X, I think like here this idea sounds really, really cool. I have a couple of concerns.
Yes.
So dipping into 1980s nostalgia is like definitely a popular thing and has been for quite some time.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I worry that I'd be like, this is cool, but I feel like there's been a lot of this recently, so it's not as special.
Ben, I think because of the quality of the games, like the beat 'em up and stuff, like you guys will be like, yeah, dude, yeah. Like all the games feel incredible.
Nice.
There's no real weak link. Like these games feel great. They're just really, 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 really short.
They're
and
not
limited.
just doing like the aesthetic of the thing. They're really nailing the feel of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. It makes you appreciate it so much more.
Totally. And the animations, and again, just the mood. I mean, things get a little melodramatic. Like it was pretty jarring when the kids started talking. There's like narration through the whole thing.
Is there voice acting?
There is voice acting, and I was like taken aback. Like at the first voice acting part, I was like, maybe I would have preferred text instead. But by the end of it, you know, I was emotionally invested. I was emotional. I was like, all right, this is great. But again, little melodramatic. Like some of the lines are like, in video games, you can be anyone,
oh my God.
anyone you want to be.
That reminds me of that image that like everybody made fun of, where it's like, I'm not a gamer because I don't have a life. It's because I have many, and it's just like the most like oh my
stupid
God.
thing.
So
ever.
like, sure, there's a little melodramatic, sure, but like, just I think if you know that going in, and you're just
right. Sometimes depending on how you play that, right?
Yeah.
Like it can be endearing.
Yeah.
Like if it is a little corny, but like the passion is there, you can overlook some of that for sure.
And I saved the best little tidbit for last.
The salesman Huber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music. Yuzo Koshiro involved in the music. The music is
that why you played
delicious.
this game or heard about it?
Actually, yeah, a couple years ago. No, it's actually true. A couple years ago, when he was announced to be working on it, then it was on my radar. I was like, oh, cool, one to look out for.
So obviously that creates pretty high expectations.
Yeah.
Did it meet those expectations?
The music?
Yes.
Yeah, the music's sick. There's a couple really good tracks. But yeah, again, just the quality of the games on hand are really cool.
So
and it's just such a low investment. Games are 50 hours now, dude. Hop in for
everything is 15 hours
one
with a
sitting.
roadmap and a season pass.
Yeah, it's like hop in for a one-nighter.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Another question though, and something I think that would frustrate me is when you have like all these different little games that you're playing, super cool. But if you are trying to tell this melodramatic story, I don't want it to be like I get a good amount of story at the beginning and a good amount of story at the end, and then there's no through line between the games. Like, do they keep the story going through the different games effectively?
Yeah, because like each game is kind of like, all right, play the game now, and then once that game is over, then it's like, all right, little more narrative. Okay, now you're playing the second game. All right, done with that, little more narrative. All right, the third game. And the way that that's implemented into the story, the context, you know, of playing the games and coming out of the games, just really, really great presentation.
Cool.
I really like this game a lot.
Cool. What is it available on? Tough question to remember. But
I played it on PS4, and I know for certain it's also on PC. Okay. I would assume it's on Xbox. I don't know if there's a Switch version.
I super do not believe that like like dollar amount has to equate to length, but I do think it is something that you consider. How much is it for
$10?
an hour? $10. $10. You said that. All right.
$9.99.
Great.
Less than a movie ticket.
Yeah.
Less than a movie.
Less than a movie ticket.
For less than
Unless
a cup
you're early
of coffee. Brad,
Yeah.
you played Dishonored 2 Death of the Outsider.
That's right, baby.
Which is awesome.
Finish the fight.
Finally,
We
yeah.
often say to each other, Dishonored
God.
2 is an immensely underappreciated game.
Yep.
I haven't played Death of the Outsider yet, and I need to someday with the other
someday.
giant mountain of games. But, bro, what made you go back to Dishonored 2, man?
So, Dishonored, there's many things I love about Dishonored, like its level design, how you approach the game. But one thing I love about Dishonored actually is its story and its world.
Yeah.
About like the Void and the Outsider. And once I found out this was after Dishonored 2, I was like, oh.
Epilogue.
And like it's around the Outsider? I'm
See,
like, one of the biggest mysteries throughout all of Dishonored franchise.
Huber, I might say something that is going to upset you.
Oh no.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
jeez.
Oh no.
I really enjoy Dishonored,
Yeah.
but like I
The story,
don't
you don't
really care about the story.
That's okay.
I,
It's not for
I
everyone.
play it for the level design and the abilities. And
okay.
I like, you know, I think there are aspects of the story that are cool, but it is nowhere near my
I will say
driving
to get the
force.
most out of Dishonored story, you have to put in the time
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
reading stuff.
Lot of
So
reading.
like if you don't want to like the characters obviously talk about stuff, but to
Right.
get the most out of it, yeah, you're gonna read.
It's just that weird thing, Brad, where and this is gonna change.
Did
person
you
by
play?
person.
Sorry, did you play the first DLCs of the first game?
No, so I've
Okay.
played all of Dishonored 1 and all of Dishonored 2. Haven't
Okay.
touched the DLC.
The DLCs I think are kind of mandatory. I would say for these games.
for appreciating the story.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially like 2, definitely.
Yeah, and that's cool because like I could totally play those DLCs and it could change my perspective. But it's just this happens sometimes with video games where like even Monster Hunter World. Like I'm grateful that in Monster Hunter World they had more of an increase in story, but like I didn't really care about it. It's not
Sure,
what I'm there
yeah.
for. But the other aspects of that game
Or enough.
are enough, and that's how I felt about Dishonored.
Yeah,
where
totally.
It's like it's so much fun just going through these levels that I didn't need the story.
Yeah, totally. To me, it's just like a nice little bonus.
Totally.
Double dose of Arcane Studios today. I like it. Shout out.
Yep. Double dose.
Double dose.
Yeah,
Youngblood, dude.
Oh yeah, they
I
helped
almost
work
said-
on that. I forgot.
I almost said Wolfblood.
Wolf.
That's not like them fully, but they helped on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, as you'd expect, Dishonored Death of the Outsider's level design is great, real good. Some of the, like, 2 of the levels...
Feed me. Because this has been on my freaking PS4. Like I had to delete it eventually because it had been on there for like 3 years.
Dishonored 2?
Haven't played it.
Okay.
So feed me, dude. Just
So it takes place after...
not to the expansion.
Oh, you have the expansion?
I had it. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I had it.
cool.
I've had it this whole time. just
So
haven't
like
played it.
this is you will appreciate this DLC more if you've played the first one because a lot of it is about like Dodd and stuff like that, and Billy, who you play as the woman from 2, and like 1 on the boat and stuff like that. So you get more context and it's really great because it's outsider payoff. Yeah. This thing that's been teased throughout the whole game. He's been there talking to you. This is like the payoff of that whole story. It kind of feels like the end of the series almost. Like there could be more, but I don't know. The level design is excellent. You pretty much start on your boat every time, and you go into a zone. You go through. There's a bunch of side quests you could do in there. Like there's always like a shop underground or something like
Love
that. You
that.
can pick up contracts on the wall to like, hey, knock this guy out in. Throw him in this box to teach him a lesson for what he did.
so sick.
Like, stuff like that.
That's really cool. So are a lot of them
great
because
mission.
that's something that obviously makes Dishonored so good is how just it's like Hitman where like the
Yes,
ways that
it
you can
is.
take out dudes is the systems that they allow. It's just like this huge sandbox of creativity. It gets so exciting.
Exactly, yeah.
And so the challenges encourage that.
Yeah, like
Hell
a lot of
yeah!
them like you can only accomplish by doing like a certain way, like not only like don't kill this guy,
Yeah.
but some of them are more kind of like do as you will kind of thing like that.
Gotcha.
Like I busted some guy out of he was like locked up somewhere, and I like really early one. There's this guy like a mime. He was like doing a mime. There's a letter to like take him out and make it look like an accident.
Nice.
So I choked him out, and I threw him off this bridge. In the story, like a lot of people commit suicide in that spot. So everyone just thinks it's a suicide, but it's actually you.
That is.
I was like, this is
dark,
real good stuff.
and intense. Yeah.
How long is this, Brian?
Took me like 8 hours.
Yeah.
But I took my sweet time with it.
Question. The environment. Are we in Dunwell or
Karnaka.
Karnaka?
It's Karnaka.
The whole thing is in Karnaka.
Yeah, Karnaka.
Got it.
Because it takes place right after 2.
Reused assets.
I guess. I don't think it's like the same areas from 2.
Cool.
But it's definitely like Karnaka again. But like Karnaka I think is awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
I think Dishonored 2 has some of the best environments of this generation.
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, and like
Okay.
the levels.
No fight required.
No fight required.
Since you're not Corvo and Emily, you have different powers than they did. Obviously, your powers are much more limited, I would say,
Okay.
because Billy, she her story about how she has powers is different from them,
Yeah.
and it's like a shorter game, so you don't have as much. Like you can't like be the shadow and crawl and stuff like that.
So that is my question, Brad, because a big part of Dishonored for me is having a lot of mobility, because that's what makes it fun to like crawl up buildings or
you
stuff.
still have mobility.
Okay. Cool. And you don't feel limited in mobility. Like you can still kind of.
You still have like a blink equivalent.
Okay.
So it's just like slightly different, but it's still pretty much the thing. You could do one really cool thing is you could grab someone and like suck their face off and be like
Dementor.
and
dude.
like take their identity. So you can walk into somewhere as like this person, they treat you as this person, but you have like a meter going down, so you can't do it the whole time.
Nice, because that was going to be my question is
Yeah.
like, does that make it too easy to get
No.
into places?
So like you have like enough time to get somewhere and like talk to someone. Like there's this part where I snuck in somewhere and there's like an auction going on, and I sat down as this person was like bidding in the auction, stuff like that. And like when you take people's faces, you like leave their body behind. It's like all gray and messed up, dude.
Whoa.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's awesome.
So Brad, I sometimes I'm bad at playing DLC, and I think part of the reason I am bad at playing DLC is because I get so attached to a game, and I actually like this with music albums as well. But I get so attached to something that I develop this fear of like, what if it isn't as good, or like it just doesn't capture the magic in the same way? Because I think about Dishonored 2, and talking about that level design, where you have those levels where you're like rotating the walls around,
Yeah.
and you have like the past and present
Yeah.
thing, and
I
it's
wouldn't
just like so
say-
creative. Does this reach those highs?
It's not as crazy as 2. I think
Okay.
2 like really went nuts with it, but it's still really rad, solid level design.
Cool.
Like the time thing in 2 and like the Clockwork Mansion are just like crazy in depth. There's still lots of depth in this, but I didn't run into a mechanic that was that crazy.
cool.
It's one of my favorite
But yeah,
missions ever.
it's
dude.
awesome. You still got your swords you'd expect. She has different gadgets. She has like a needle she could shoot from her hand, or like flame things. Kind of like how Emily and Corvo had like the gun, so like that. She just has like something different. But you can just like light people on fire, put traps, all that good stuff. Everything you like about Dishonored is still here.
Yeah, Brad, isn't that just the best feeling when like the zeitgeist has moved on? It's not part of the conversation anymore, but you just make the choice to go back to something and play it.
Yeah,
It
it's
just
something I
feels
always
awesome.
wanted to like play, and
Yeah.
I like made time to play it this time.
Yeah, it's. I try to do that as much as I can. It can be hard depending on just what you're playing for work and stuff, but still, yeah. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
because when I played Dishonored 2, I went ghost. Like I didn't kill non-lethal ghost, but
Okay.
this time I played. And I was like, I'm gonna be stealth, but if I get seen, like it's gonna go down. Like I'm gonna fight people.
So I've forced myself to play Dishonored that way a little bit, but I want to know from you guys, any game where like stealth is super viable, it's hard for me to not do that. Like I just take so much, I don't know if it's pride or what
Sure.
it is, where like I was like, I don't want to be seen.
Stealth is like arguably my favorite genre.
Yeah.
If I get spotted, I go. If I get spotted, I go with it, because I need those self-imposed stakes. I need that tension, because then when I'm stealthing, I'm so nervous, and then if I get through stealth, I'm like, yes. But if I get caught, then that's also fun, especially in Dishonored, because like so many tools and weapons you can use.
Yeah.
So getting caught is like, well, shit, I feel bad about getting caught, but now I feel good about like shooting and stabbing
No,
people.
in Hitman and Dishonored in particular, I get so
Hitman is a little.
I get so crazy about it. It's like, no.
Yeah, Hitman I get like
I
kind of
can't remember if it was Dishonored 1 or 2, but I had a moment where like I was trying not to kill anybody, and like I either threw them in there or somehow they accidentally got knocked out and thrown into the water, and so they drowned.
Drowned,
But I
yeah.
didn't know until like and I was like, oh
Dude.
no.
Game trailers.
Yeah.
Someone who worked at Game Trailers went through Dishonored 1,
Yeah.
full stealth, non-lethal run, and they accidentally killed somebody in the tutorial. They didn't know it counted. So at the very end of the entire game, they had one kill.
Oh, and that just drives you up
Yeah.
a wall when
Yeah.
you have that
That's
moment. You're like,
brutal.
how did this happen?
But yeah, Death of the Outsider was awesome. If you like Dishonored, check it out. I highly recommend playing all the DLCs if you like Dishonored 2. They're super important for narrative, if you care about that.
Well, 2's cool. Death of the Outsider is cool because it's standalone. The other ones are a pain because it's like attached to Dishonored 1,
Yeah,
right?
this one you
Yeah.
can just play.
Yeah.
Cool. Man. You okay?
Just hyped, man. I want to play Dishonored now.
I know.
Like,
It's
really
still
want to
real
play.
fun.
It's become cliche at this point because I feel like we talk about it every frame trap, but it's just hard not to get energized and be like, I want to immediately play this, and then you have the crushing defeat of being like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yep.
Which is like not a real problem, of course. It's not something to actually be upset about, but yeah. But we do have a real problem. We do. We have something that has been weighing on my mind, and that is HOTTAKE!
Oh my god.
Yeah, that one was spirited.
Jeez, I know, dude.
That one was spirited. Fun fact for the audience, I had a totally different HOTTAKE planned, and Huber was talking about something before the show, and I was like, you know what? I think that is more interesting and would maybe get these guys a little bit more fired up. So, Huber, you did a Call of Duty preview for Modern Warfare, and you had the pleasure of kind of receiving what I would call like the stock standard Call of Duty response where people are shitting on a thing because they always shit on it. It's almost like clockwork. And in Slack, Bloodworth was like, people are shitting on this and they haven't even had time to watch the video. Like the video has not been up long enough for these people.
15-minute video, comment 3-minute in.
Right, to prompt to, and so it gets frustrating. And it's like, I'm not saying people can't criticize a series or can't, everybody has their own preferences and they're free to express it. But sometimes it does feel like the bandwagoning effect is like not helping anybody, and it's creating a perception that maybe doesn't necessarily reach reality. And I'm sure as somebody who does enjoy something like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed, or I'm sure there are other games I could think of that kind of maybe have this bandwagoning effect of hate, that it can make it harder to enjoy something or to want to share your opinion about a thing. And Brad, I don't know if there are any series that you enjoy where you get that effect as well, but I just kind of want to talk about this sensation and if there's any good ways for us to deal with it collectively kind of as a community or on a personal level.
I'm dealing with something right now on a personal level, a movie. This is how I'm dealing with it. Tarantino, Once Upon a Time just came out.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to a other than my wife. I'm not talking to a single person about it just because I don't want the hot takes. I don't want to deal with it. Yeah. So I have refused to talk about this movie with anyone other than my wife.
Have you already seen it?
Yeah, we saw it. Okay. Talked about it in depth. Done. That's it. Don't ask me about it.
I'll ask you about it.
But like, call it. And I think it's unfortunate, right, that I have to go to these extremes to just like seal myself off from the world because like the hot takes are just so extreme. And that's like Call of Duty too, where it's like kind of like not scary to bring it up, but it's like anytime, it's brought up, there's always that group of like Call of Duty, same thing every year. And it's like, just let me enjoy the thing. Just let me enjoy Call of Duty. Like, if you don't like Call of Duty, that's fine, but please just move along. Like, do you really need to, like, you're walking on your path of life. You're not a Call of Duty fan. You don't play Call of Duty, but you take the time to stop, look in my direction, and say, same as it always is, like, screw this franchise, like, cash grab. Like, please just keep walking and leave me alone.
So, obviously, this is a generalization, and I'm sure the differences vary, but at the same time, like, why do you think that becomes so predominant? Like, why do you think people feel so compelled to do that?
I mean, popular things usually get a lot of criticism.
Do you think
Game of Thrones, Star Wars,
it is like it's an identity thing where this isn't cool, and so I don't want to appear uncool, so I'm gonna shit on it?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's changed over the years with Call of Duty. Like at one point, it was like edgy and so cool to love Call of Duty,
right? And
then that identity, then it became like the dude bro game, Call of Duty, and then like factions started. It's been a road for this franchise, but I feel like there's always a vocal distaste for this franchise.
So I want to bring video game coverage into this a little bit. And this is a perspective that I can kind of understand because I saw it happen at game trailers where it was like, oh, this is Call of Duty. It has to take priority over all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that frustrated people for sure, where it was like, guys, there are a bunch of other games. Call of Duty comes out every year. Like, don't, like, we get it. We know about Call of Duty. Please cover other things. But I actually think that that's something that has gotten tremendously better. And like, of course, it's not perfect, but I would say by and large, things across the board are getting better coverage because there's more avenues for you to get your information. And so if you care about this thing, there's probably a streamer or a YouTube channel or some collective group that is covering it in a satisfying way. And so I don't feel like Call of Duty is eating up the pie as much in that sense, in terms of attention.
Yeah.
And so that perspective I don't get. Like when people are like, all game journalists care about is Call of Duty, it's like, no. Like I just don't see it as effectively as I did maybe in the past.
Yeah.
But Brad, do you think this is just internet white noise, or do you think like there's any way we can make this better?
Oh, like, to me, it'll get better when people get bored about complaining about it. Like, it's not really a high effort to just hop in a comment section, just type LOL, this sucks, or something like that. Like, that doesn't take long at all.
Right.
And people just like to shit post, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it is. Like, I don't know.
And this is different than like, this kind of criticism I feel like is different than the like other controversies of the game. You know, this is a war game, like kids, I haven't seen the campaign, but like you can shoot kids or something, and like they're bringing back like chemical weapons that are like war crimes. Like it is controversial, and that conversation should absolutely take place in a constructive way. Like, you know, at the event, they're up on stage talking about like, oh, can't wait to use this gun, you know, and like shoot someone. Like that is very intense, you know, like any way you look at it, that's always going to be very intense. But like, for me, if I just like, even for a moment, like play Call of Duty, and at the end of it, I'm like affected emotionally, or if I'm like, man, war is terrible, war is horrible. Like, even if I have that thought for a second, isn't that a win? Isn't that enough?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's just that's a hard thing to sometimes unpack, where like it giving you that emotion on a personal level, I do think is really satisfying. But then you have to analyze the context around that message. Like, it's weird having that and then getting a pop-up screen where it's like, buy our season pass. Like,
Totally.
It's just like,
well, there's the multiplayer and the campaign disconnect.
Right, but that disconnect can affect your perception or the sincerity of the message.
Totally.
You know, even if they're coming from a good place, it's just how this is all bundled together can affect it. But there's 2 points that I want to kind of bounce off you guys. The first is, Huber, I thought you brought up a really good point. And Brad, I want to see if you agree with this, where you're like, you know, I just play Call of Duty every year for a month, and it's satisfying. And I do think that is some of the criticism sometimes, where it's like, it comes out every year, it's not that valuable. And it's like, does it need to be? Like, if something gives you a month of entertainment, isn't that pretty great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Every time this franchise comes out, and it's like, I know what I'm getting into.
Right.
That's why I just don't understand the criticism of like, you're either in or you're out.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, you already know.
But it's
you're
okay to
either-
be out.
It's okay to be out, but you don't need to ruin it for everyone else.
Right. There's another layer, a deeper layer, that I think I want to try to add into this conversation about perception, where I do think a lot of the perception is coming from the fact that people are rightfully angry at Activision and some of the things that they've done, and just the business practices surrounding that company. Yeah. And you also get it with other companies. The whole Randy Pitchford constant shitstorm that is happening with Gearbox and Borderlands, and you know, Todd Howard and Bethesda at large. Like, there are things that are happening that I think people are rightfully criticizing, and I do think that plays into the perception of like, you know, fuck this game.
Yes.
Does that influence your perception of a company or a game or a series? Does that affect you on a personal level, or are you able to separate it?
It does affect me, and that's why I get so attached to like the Dark Knight trilogy or the MCU, because I like the vast majority of the people involved, and I think it's coming from a good place, you know? Yeah. So that kind of, if all of that combines, you know, where I love the company, I love the people, and I love the product, then it's the perfect storm, and it's a 10 out of 10.
Do you ever, I mean, with the MCU in particular, I guess out of my own curiosity, do you ever think about like, hey, this belongs to Disney, who is slowly taking over the world?
I still don't think of it as a Disney thing. I know it is, but like,
Yeah.
I still think it is like Kevin Feige, dude, holding it down.
So,
But it's Disney.
But it's,
but
we can play this game all freaking day long,
right.
dude.
And I'm not trying to antagonize you. I'm just trying to say like how is this affecting you?
Yeah.
So with like, is there an example of something that has happened with a particular company that has affected your relationship with the game?
Trying to think. I can't think of anything right now. I mean, all the CD Projekt Red scandals definitely kind of like tainted it a little bit.
Right.
But then it's so hard to like pin an entire company on like a couple people.
Right.
So it's always a internal struggle. I'm always wrestling with that of separating. But I it does affect me, and I do think about it. And just the point I want to drive home is when everyone involved in a product is good vibes and love and respect.
Right.
And the game is good when it's that perfect storm, then there's nothing better. That's just like euphoria, you know? So.
It's so hard because, and this is going away from what we were originally talking about, but like a company like an EA is a company that's always very fascinating to me, where there's so much bullshit. Like people are right to criticize them, and it keeps happening. And like there is, without a doubt, validity to a lot of the complaints that are happening.
Yeah.
But then there are other times where it's like, all right, you can't just hate them because they exist. Like the anger has to come from direct actions. And if a game comes out that is just a good game, it's not fair to hate it for simply existing. Like there has to be some sort of cause and effect relationship. And sometimes I think that the EA hate can just get so riled up where it's like any direction they move, there's anger. And I just don't think that is productive. I don't think that is going to help them fix problems. I don't think that is focused. I think that's when it becomes like vindictive and mob mentality. And I think that's going back to the original Call of Duty point where it's like, don't we want to celebrate good things, praise good things, and punish bad things? Like, if Call of Duty comes out and it's awesome, us coming out and saying that it's awesome and praising it, I think is healthy. We can't just hate it because it made us mad in the past. Like, I think treating things on a more case-by-case basis would just be more productive for everyone across the board.
Yeah, and there's no room for nuance anymore. You know, we've joked around that nuance is dead.
Yeah.
So it's like I always think like, you know, if one or two, theoretically, say one person involved in this modern warfare turns out to be a slimeball sketcher, you know, just a really
I like that slimeball sketcher.
Slimeball sketcher, you know, are the other like 2,000 or however freaking many people working on this all sketch, you know, and I think that's that like hurts, you know, when it's like, all right, one person in this company did something bad, like. The entire company sucks. It's like I can imagine a lot of cool human beings working on Modern Warfare that just love it. You know?
Yeah, I've no doubt about it, and yeah, it's hard because like I get what you mean, man, and I can imagine like we're in a little bit of a different perspective where we're public people, and so like when we throw out an opinion, it's going to be different than, you know, just some other person who doesn't have as public of a life. But it frustrates. I feel like the conversation around video games could just be better. Like because, and I can't imagine that I'm the only one that feels this way. Where it's like, games are just so awesome right now. They're so good, and there's so many things to celebrate. And obviously there are problems. There are things that we need to work through on an industry side. But it feels weird where every time you try to celebrate something, it's not that people are attacking your ideas, they're attacking you. And I think that has affected fans. I think that has affected developers. I think that has just affected everybody. And so what that creates is everybody just wants to retreat into their own shell.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm doing with Tarantino.
Like, you know, that's safe. That prevents things from happening, but you don't get that euphoria of getting new perspectives, of sharing something, of growing something, of forming community. I think it is breaking down communities. Like, I really do.
Yeah.
And I think communities are one of the best parts about video games. And when you can find a group of like-minded people who are well-intentioned, like, it is just the happiest you'll ever be.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. community.
Right. And,
Safe space.
and I don't know what you can do. And, like, you know, like, everybody's lines are different, and people are going to disagree, and disagreements are healthy and all that stuff. But, like, I guess all that this is just, like, be mindful of the things that you say. Be mindful and, like, know that your words affect people, and it will change how they interact with something. It will cause them to withdraw. It will cause them to not share something that could have been really cool. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that has kind of been a general message of several of these HOTTAKEs, but I still feel like it's really true, where it's just like, I think the more mindful we are of our words, the better off everybody will be, for sure. So,
Bring nuance back.
and just don't blindly hate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brad, I'm sorry. You didn't get to
Oh no, that's
talk
okay.
talk a whole
That's
lot during
okay.
that HOTTAKE. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I mean, do you think this is as much of a problem as I'm presenting it?
Yeah. For me, in my life, I'm kind of at a stage where, with everything, there is a good and a bad, and like I just expect these things. I know what's gonna happen a lot of times, like great stuff, but there's also bad stuff, kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
And it's like I just try not to let that bother me.
Yeah.
You know, it's for me, like if I don't really like something, I'm not the kind of person to go on somewhere really and say like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like I don't like episode 8, but I've never like been mad at anyone who
Right.
does. I've never said
You
anything.
haven't like
signed a petition.
you haven't light your Star Wars figures on fire.
It's just me. That's it. And like that's all it needs to be for me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I don't need to like make some crazy thing like that. But it's just like I don't know. I just try to be a pretty cool person. Try to treat people how I would want to be treated.
Yeah.
I think Brad's a pretty cool person.
And I don't want to be ignorant or give excuses to companies or to things, but I just choose to focus on the good.
Right.
Going back to like if one person in a company is sketch as hell, I try to focus on the people who are not. And
Right.
those people.
Right. And I think there's kind of like this fallacy of if there's a bad thing, by not talking about, like, if you're talking about a good thing, that means that you don't care about the bad thing. I think that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Where like, you try to say something positive, and they're like, "But wait, this bad thing! Don't forget the bad thing. We gotta focus on that. That's not fixed yet." And it's like, that isn't productive. If you're only ever focusing on the bad things, it will color your perception, and that won't be accurate either. And so, just because you're talking about something good doesn't mean that you don't care about the negative aspects of the industry, or that you are endorsing bad practices. You liking something is not necessarily an endorsement of all the evil in the world. So
Right.
I do think, and then like, it's weird when it's like, hey, I enjoy video game A. It's like, does that mean you want to work people to death? No, that's not what that means. And obviously, you do have to send a message, right? And you do have to support something. But I don't think jumping down somebody's throat like that or accusing them of something is going to get you very far. That's all.
Well said. Well said, man.
Whew. That, I don't know. You ready for some emails?
Yeah. Video games.
Video
Video
games.
games.
Yo, 1980X, dude.
Yeah.
1980X. Came for you as a
Enjoy
play.
some nostalgia.
Yeah.
Play some Outrun.
Yuzo Koshiro.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to immediately good vibes with this first email, but I think it's a good email. This comes in from Samuel. He says, frame trap question on frustration. Hi, Ben and guests. I've been thinking about frustration in video games, specifically the difference between good and bad frustration. Shrek for the original Xbox was clearly a deeply frustrating experience. Ludicrous objectives, hideous environments, and weird mumbling enemies, unsatisfying platforming. Shrek earned its place in the bin. This is a very well-written email. However, sometimes frustration can be a positive thing. Hollow Knight is frustrating. Some bosses made me scream at the wall. tear my hair out, rage quit, swear off video games for life. That is something. I don't think I've ever been so frustrated that I've sworn off video games for life. That has never happened.
No.
But I like that. I like that anger
Yeah.
here. The hardest levels of Tropical Freeze drive me to distraction as I hear that taunting death. Yep, immediately comes to mind. That taunting death music again and again. Divinity Original Sin 2 often leaving me feel like a complete fool. Yes. Yet, these are 3 of my most cherished games of the last few years. When I fail at a boss or platforming challenge, I am quite literally being frustrated. My desires are going unfulfilled. My designs are being thwarted. Strictly speaking, these are frustrating experiences. So why do I enjoy them? One suggestion is that I never feel cheated by these games. Any failure is undeniably my own fault. Moreover, the feeling of playing the game is essentially good. Even when it's going disastrously, it feels great to swing your needle sword, to roll jump, or to beat someone down with a blood incarnate. At the same time, I don't think it's simply the case that the enjoyment of playing the game outweighs the frustration. I think the frustration itself is enjoyable. Of course, we often induce negative feelings, sadness, fear, even pain, either because we seek catharsis or because it makes an ultimate positive emotion feel all the sweeter. What are your thoughts on this question, and what other examples of good and bad frustration stand out for you?
Puzzles are bad frustration for me. It's why I don't gravitate towards them. It's because it's not fun not knowing how to solve a puzzle. It's not fun to move a laser here. Oh, it doesn't work. Move the laser there. Oh, it doesn't work. Move the laser there. Oh, it finally works. Like,
Yeah.
it's not fun. Whereas good frustration, final boss of Sekiro.
Yeah.
I've never been like so defeated in my life. I was so frustrated,
Right.
but it was the good kind. I just pulled up a chair and I was like, if I'm here for the next 10 hours, if that's how long it takes, so be it. So frustrating, but then finally beating it. I was like, yes. Whereas that's more satisfying than like even solving the puzzle, because the act of solving the puzzle was frustrating and not fun.
Sure.
I like solving puzzles, actually.
I mean,
Depends on
it's
the-
a
like,
case to
it can be-
case.
It could be frustrating, but like
I think
I
when it's-
enjoy it sometimes.
Yeah.
What if it's just a puzzle game, like a full, not like a puzzle in Resident Evil is fine because it's just part of a larger product. But when the whole game is just puzzles,
Puzzle games can be awesome.
I know.
Oh, what was that game? Intelligence
I'm not-
Cube. I liked that game
Sure.
back in the day.
Yeah.
On PS1.
That game was...
I don't want to hate on puzzle games. I'm
That game was
just saying
confusing.
from my.
But like I don't. But, like,
Totally.
But like I get it. I don't like Tetris, and it's like at the end of the day, Tetris is like about putting things together in the correct order.
Brad, I just had one of those moments, man, where like that is your preference and that is totally cool.
Yeah.
But I had that like
Oh,
immediately.
I'm huge in the minority. On
No,
this
I
one.
just had that immediately. I had that immediate moment. It was like, how the hell does he not like Tetris? But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. I just
Yeah.
sorry,
It's okay.
bonked your head. But yeah, that happens.
Frustrating. I don't like is I was playing Shadow of War, and I was
Yeah.
fighting like a boss, and like I was trying to roll, and I was just stuck behind an invisible wall, and I just kept rolling, trying to get out of there, and he just wouldn't go anywhere, and I just died. I'm like, God damn it, dude, because like when something like that is out of my control, like something beyond my like what I could do, it was just 100% the game faulting on me.
Right.
Where like I didn't technically mess up, the game did. Like
Yeah.
as stupid and cheesy as that sounds, like it's like annoying when you're trying to escape somewhere and you like they like grab something you don't want them to, like in Assassin's Creed games, like always climbing on something. Like,
Jumping the wrong way. It's like, no, jump that way.
yeah, like when it's just like something happens I don't want it to.
Yeah.
I think there are 2 instances where it's immensely frustrating. One is when, and this happens, I think, not as much now, but in some retro games where like suddenly you just have to use a mechanic that you haven't had to use the entire game and they don't tell you what it is. And so it's just like you look it up and then the guide tells you, oh, this is what you have to do. And it's like, how was I supposed to know that?
Yeah.
So I think clarity is a big part of it.
Definitely.
And I don't, that's not saying that games need to hold your hand. I actually think you can have a lot of clarity without
holding
telling
your
the player
hand.
everything.
Yeah.
But if it's just like some random thing that you would never think of, if you didn't give me the tools to piece that together myself, then that sucks. The second thing is when it's just padding, when it's like, I'm doing this not because it's teaching me more about the game or the world or the story. You're just doing it to extend the length of the game. That just purely sucks all the time, always. No, thank you. And also, I think something like Hollow Knight is a good example where, like, The frustration is, like, if I die in Hollow Knight, it's like, I know exactly why I died. I didn't perform the basic combat well enough. I didn't execute it, but I could, like, if it's like, if I had just jumped there or just dodged this or just hit that, I would have succeeded. So I know. It sucks when you, like, do something and you're like, I don't even know what to do. Like, what do I have in my toolkit that can deal with this? Those are the most discouraging defeats, where you just you're moving along and it's just fine, and then you get so obliterated and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. It's about learning. If you feel like those boss fights are the best when you get destroyed, but you're like, wait a minute, what if I try this? And then you get a little bit better. And then you get a little bit better. And you still lose, but even if you lose 100 times, if you still feel the sense that, like, there's something new you could try, or you're getting a little bit better every time, you're going to want to keep playing.
Yeah.
And I think Sekiro did a good job of that a lot of times, where I would just hit a wall and I would die, but I was like, I bet I can do this better, and I was right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What's the most frustrating game you've played?
The Witness.
Yeah, The Witness is super frustrating, man.
I don't know.
And
Hard quit, hard delete.
I actually think it's a great video game, but there are just times where you're like,
Nope.
Jonathan Blow,
Yep.
come on, man.
No thanks.
I will say one frustrating experience for me was playing through Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't like that game at all. But I love Zelda.
And that came
And
from
it,
the
like,
controls,
it's just
right?
not clicking with me. Yeah, just the controls, like the ocean dungeon, just like all that, just nothing clicking with me. And it just frustrated me because I wasn't enjoying it and I wanted to.
Yeah. I would actually say, and this is actually something that I've gotten a lot better at. I'm proud of myself, but as much as I love them, and I really do to the core of my being, fighting games can often be the most frustrating for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, for multiple reasons, when you lose and it's just like, that was just a laggy as hell match, that sucks. That's just frustrating. It's out of your control, and you really feel like this is the game's fault. Like, this isn't just me. And it's or when you just, like, lose over and over and over again, it's a hard thing to accept. And it's hard to train your mind to be like, me losing over and over again is a good thing, because it's just naturally discouraging. But once you get there, it does help you and you do get better. But it's a hard mountain to overcome, and it's a frustrating experience. Next one. Huber, I think you're going to like this one. This is from Son of Sparta. Evolution or Improvement? A Sequel's Dilemma. Hello, Ben and Allies. I hope you are having a lovely evening. So I've been thinking about this for a while now, but when do you think a sequel in a well-known franchise should try to go just beyond improving what the past games in the series have done and make drastic changes to evolve into something more fresh in their respective series? I'm mainly thinking about Devil May Cry and Persona 5 with this question. I really enjoyed both of those games, and I think they are very well made and deserving of the praise they got. But at the same time, as a big fan of both franchises, I can't help but feel that the respective formula and design structure for both series are getting a tad stale. Linear mission design in DMC, the calendar system in Persona, separated arcs for each party members, and very restrictive time management. Do you think that because these games offer a fairly unique experience, they should just stick to what works and try to focus on improvements rather than coming up with core new ideas to change up the current formula? Think DMC 3 and Persona 3 compared to their predecessors. Or do you think it would benefit them in the long run to try to come up with new core ideas and gameplay mechanics to go beyond what they have achieved right now? For instance, overhauled to the calendar system and time management for Persona, and a more open hub world design for DMC are things that immediately come to mind. What do you personally hope to see in the next Persona and Devil May Cry series? And thank you for reading my email. If you do so, as always, love and respect. So rather than talking about what we want next in Persona and DMC in particular, I want to focus on that question is, when is the right time for a radical change-up? And how valuable is that?
To me, it feels like when it becomes very stale.
But how do you quantify that?
For me, it's a case-by-case basis. When I play something, I'm like, ugh.
Right.
Like, Resident Evil 6 was like a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Where I was like, this has got to change. Like, this is not working what they're doing. It all evolved. Like, 4, totally the huge shift. 5 was great. Then 6 is just, like, kind of a mess to me.
Yeah.
Like, it felt, like, really bloated. And I was like, they just need to change this. This isn't working anymore. To me, this is going away from what the spirit of the original games was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also depends on not only like being stale within a series, but being stale as like a trend in general.
Yeah.
Because Hubert, like Uncharted was so pivotal and so influential, but I felt like I was playing a lot of games in a lot of different series that were like, not that they didn't have their own merits, but essentially were takes on Uncharted, where it was a lot of like, man, I'm climbing up a wall in a very similar way. It feels very similar. The combat feels very similar. The design of this area feels very similar. And so like that's when it gets stale for me. And this thing that was really special and new is suddenly just being done to death.
Yeah.
Whereas like I think Devil May Cry 5 is an interesting thing because yes, it is super similar in a lot of ways to past Devil May Cry games, but when you heard Itsuno talking about it, he's like, there are not a lot of pure action games. And he's right. There aren't a lot. You're not getting a lot of games like Devil May Cry very often. You're not getting a lot of games like Bayonetta or Ninja Gaiden very often. And so it felt like there is room to kind of just iterate on what came before. It doesn't need a reinvention because it's not happening all
Yeah,
the
because
time.
I think if there's oversaturation, it could definitely have a huge factor in it.
Yeah.
But like you said, there hasn't been many games like that recently.
Right. And Huber, you've talked about before like how maybe innovation is like too obsessed with sometimes and like how slow evolution can be good. So how do you feel about this topic?
Like Brad said, case to case. I really like sequels, and I don't necessarily need a sequel to do drastically different things. I prefer sometimes refinement over innovation. But like, Resident Evil is another example of like, I loved the innovation, especially coming off 6. So it just all really depends. Like Resident Evil 2 remake, if Resident Evil 3 remake was just the same thing, but a little bigger with some crafting and some choices, like, cool.
Right.
So just really case to case. I think it really lies in the developer's hands. It's kind of something really hard to quantify because like public perception, I think, plays a huge role in this. Like after Resident Evil 6, they came out and they were like, hey, we hear you. Like, the core fans like didn't really like the direction. So then the next one we're going to, take it in a new direction. So
Right.
I think that definitely has a big factor. Whereas like Devil May Cry 5 came out and really great reception. So clearly like we're still into it and hungry and
But like just hypothetically, if Devil May Cry 6 came out next year and was basically just Devil May Cry 5 plus, I think it would be criticized for that because of the proximity.
Which I'm fine with. Like I'm always down with either innovation or refinement. Like if Devil May Cry 6 was completely different or if it was exactly the same, let's see. Let's judge it on its own merits.
Right, but you just have to, I don't know, pay attention to like what's going on around that game. But like Persona, I think is a really interesting example because while I see where you're coming from, criticizing like, hey, the calendar system and the way social links / covenants work, it's very similar across all these games, and it's been this way for a long time. Comparing Persona 5 directly to Persona 4. They feel completely different to me because Persona 4 is about Inaba. It's about this tremendously small town. It's about knowing, a small group of people, and it's about the intimacy of the story. It is a very intimate story where Persona 5 is the exact opposite. It's this huge city. It's about dealing with large volumes of people. It's about dealing with society as a collective a bit more. I mean, Persona 4 does as well, but I would say just in terms of vibes and like hook of the game, there's a very different feeling to playing Persona 5, despite the fact that structurally it's very similar. And so it just depends on what you're changing. Because I think even a new character or a new message can make something feel innovative if mechanically it's still the same.
Yeah. Like P5 has a completely different look too and presentation than all the other ones.
Right. And like I think like V in Devil May Cry 5 helped that a lot, where it was like you got something new and you got something old as well. And like you had 3 different tiers where you had Dante, who was like very, very similar to how he's played in the past. Nero, who like has some important changes, and then V, who is completely new in a lot of ways. So.
I love sequels, man. I love when a sequel is just like the next step for something. I think of like Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2, and it's just like just more and bigger and more confidence. Just I love it.
It's just, maybe this is outside of the scope
Or like-
of the question, though.
Or
But
Witcher 3, like after Witcher 2, it's just like this is a totally different game, but it's still a sequel, but it you're still retaining a lot of that. It's just, I love it, man.
This is a slightly different question though, Huber, but it is something that gets to me. In both film and video games, like where like I'm with you, like man, I can't wait for Devil May Cry 6. I can't wait for the next Fire Emblem or the next Persona or whatever it is. I'm super excited by that, but sometimes like man, I just want that new heavy hitter. Like I want that brand new shooter that changes shooters.
The Death Stranding. Of
Yeah, and it could be that. But even Death Stranding like has some legacy attached to it. It's still Kojima. I do think that sometimes video games are at their most exciting when it's a new thing from people you've never heard of before, and I want there to be enough space for
I think
that.
it's good to have both.
Yeah.
Ideally, you'd want both. Because there's nothing wrong with wanting a sequel that's just better to something you liked already, but it's also awesome getting something brand new.
Totally.
Like when we got, when you're talking about like a new game series, like when we got the Arkham trilogy.
Yeah.
Like just a great Batman game. Like it seemed like out of nowhere almost.
But even something like, and I'm not a dedicated player by any means, but even something like PUBG is very exciting and just like, oh my god, this has changed video games.
Dude,
I
like,
love those moments.
Games like DayZ at the time were crazy.
Yep. All right, our last email. Man, this is a shorter frame trap. Our last email comes in from Craig. He says, imagine 3 separate timelines. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are all dramatically far behind the other two in their own timeline. Their businesses are soon to close up shop. However, each of them have a nuclear option, something none of them would ever do while they were doing well. What do you think each of their last stand all or nothing nuclear options would be?
I think just like huge price drops. They just drop the price of everything by like it reminds me of the Dreamcast. Like at the end of the Dreamcast life cycle, man, they just dropped that thing. Like it was too late already, but that was like a desperate act to last thermonuclear, turn the keys. Like we got to do something.
Yeah. For PlayStation, I feel like their backwards compatibility has been just the worst. So maybe a nuclear option would be like, every PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4 game
You can
play it on this. Let's go.
When I think of nuclear options, I think of like hardcore pandering.
Yeah.
Like for Nintendo, I think it would be like trying to recapture like if they were really dire and like no one was on their side, I think it'd be trying to recapture the hearts of their most dedicated. And so it's like, we are greenlighting a new F-Zero immediately. Like get this out the door and make it amazing.
Yeah.
Like so that's kind of like the panic button stuff that I would expect. And same thing with like Sony. I think Sony is kind of in a position where it would just be like, yo, hurry up on that new Horizon sequel. Hurry up on
this and that new Spider-Man game.
Yeah. But
Microsoft's nuclear option would just be to buy everyone else.
Yeah. Yo, just buy Nintendo.
Yeah.
I honestly think maybe Microsoft would lean into some like crossovers.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Halo cross Gears of Wars. I don't know. That's a pretty dumb idea.
Cross Gears of War.
But
Halo
that,
Gears.
that kind of pandering, I think, would exist on some level.
It's funny.
You know what else I think would happen? And I really do think this. And I think maybe it would be most likely from Microsoft, but I could see Sony doing it as well, and even Nintendo. I think they would try to resurrect beloved things. Like
IPs?
Yeah.
Banjo?
Like we are fronting a new Metal Gear Solid. We are bringing you a new Castlevania. Yeah. We are that kind of legacy stuff, and it's exclusive to our platform. So kind of like a Bayonetta 2 situation.
Dude, Bayonetta 2.
Yeah.
Ape Escape.
Ape Escape's coming.
Like a new Ape Escape would be awesome.
It's not coming.
Is that a nuclear option?
No.
You don't think Ape Escape's coming back?
I do.
What?
I think
No, we're talking about like the level of if it's a nuclear bomb or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huber,
No, I think Ape Escape could come back.
Huber, I think the question is this coming back? Like, the answer is yes now.
The answer is yes.
If you ask me, is something coming back? The answer is yes. It's just a matter of when.
Yep.
Yeah. Guys, we only did one email last time, and this is a pretty short episode. How would you feel about doing a 4th email?
Let's do it.
I'll have to screen some other
Screen
ones.
'em.
So,
Screen them.
Screen them.
yeah.
Vet them. My guys are vetted. They're my. Well, how do you know? Because they're my guys. Breaking Bad.
Dude, I need to
Is it time for a rewatch?
I need to rewatch Breaking Bad. I've been thinking about it for so long.
Have you watched Better Call Saul, Ben?
So I've seen the first season of Better Call Saul,
Okay.
and I watched the first episode of the second season, and it's all been amazing.
Just
Yeah.
scratch the itch with Saul.
Yeah.
Hop in. Because when that final season comes, that's going to be an event.
I'm at the very end of Stranger Things season 3, though.
Me too. I have 2 left, I think.
I'm like halfway through the final episode. We just gotta like watch.
my
Yeah.
No.
What do you think about Stranger Things season 3?
I like it. I can't say yet though, because the final 2, like a lot hinges
For
on
sure.
that.
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
that should be.
Yeah,
I
I really like it.
Ben has mixed feelings.
they're not even that. I would say overall, I've had a great time with season 3.
Yeah.
There are just a couple of things where like.
It's hard to keep that magic going, dude.
Yeah,
It is
it
hard.
is.
Yeah,
It's hard to
that's
keep the
kind of
magic
what I
going.
feel. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I feel. Where it's like.
It's really hard.
Because what I really love about Stranger Things, and this is not the only series where I've ran this into, is like I get so attached to the characters that my favorite moments are them just hanging out and
Yeah.
dealing with mundane things.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they get into like the goofy, convoluted adventures, it's just not as much fun to watch because I don't care about the goofy, convoluted adventure that is obviously going to be resolved as much as I care about the characters. And so like just the things with the Russians and all that stuff, like it's just not that exciting. And like the Upside Down and the monsters that come out of it are not as mysterious as they were in the beginning.
Mysterious monsters?
And they're just not as threatening.
Yes,
So
I
I
guess
don't
they
know.
are.
It's good. I do think it is very good in a
really
lot of
good.
ways. But yeah, just a weird criticism that I have.
Chief Jim Hopper. Alcoholic.
You know what? We're gonna do this because I like the subject. The longest waits. This comes in from Jared. Hello,
already got
allies.
him.
Greetings from
Ellis.
Kansas
Got
City.
him. Me.
So after 13 long years, my favorite band Tool is set to finally release
I
a
heard
new
about
album.
this.
The struggle has been real, with delay after delay and no progress updates until this year. It sounds silly, but it's going to be a weight off my shoulders once the album finally comes out. So my question is, what is the panel's most agonizingly painful delay? Whether it's a video game, album release, book, movie, TV show, anything really. I'd love to hear what has been the hardest wait to endure. Did whatever you were waiting for live up to expectations?
Shenmue 3.
Yeah, I knew before I finished the email that that's what it was going to be.
For me, it was probably Twilight Princess. Just waiting years and years for that. Just little tidbits of information, like every year, like here's a screenshot.
Yeah.
And that's it, man. And I was just like, God, just give me this freaking game right now.
You know, I'm gonna change my answer because I'm totally fine waiting for Shenmue 3, but this is embarrassing. I think I've told this story before, like back in the day. Grew up Batman fan, Batman animated series. It's also Superman animated series.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Leading up to the release of Superman 64, I had a countdown calendar on my wall, counting down the days. It was my most anticipated game. Just waiting for this.
I totally get that though.
Yeah.
Like you see it and it's
Yep.
like this is just a game of the show I love.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome.
Superman gets to fly around and like beat people up.
It's just so funny because of how hot garbage that game
The
is.
worst.
Yeah.
So
that sucks, dude.
yeah, that was a painful wait, made more painful by the product being trash.
So I rented Superman 64 and like it wasn't the meme that it is now, and it was just like, why the fuck am I flying through rings?
Why am I flying through rings? Why the hell am I flying through these
Why am I
freaking
flying through
rings?
rings? Yeah. I mean, you as a kid, you like try to do every mental trick in the book to like it. You know, like you just try to tell yourself, well, it's like at least this is cool. Oh man. For me, it was Metal Gear Solid 2, and nothing. I don't think anything will ever.
How long
come
was
close
that
to
wait from announcement to
Oh
like?
my god.
Well, it was 1998, and Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in 2001. So 3 years. Like it wasn't like this crazy long wait.
Just
but-
agonizing.
But yeah, as a kid, like I had, and this is true, I had never enjoyed something as much as I enjoyed the original Metal Gear Solid. Like I didn't know I could love something
Video games that much,
video
yeah.
games that much. And so because it was such a transformative thing for me, like the idea that there was going to be more of that feeling, like I had never cared about characters that much. I had never cared about a story that much. I had never been so like the secrets that were in Metal Gear Solid and all the crazy things that you can do. And you know what made the wait so like it was like a 1-2 punch, right? Because that E3 trailer for Metal Gear Solid 2 is untouchable. It is god tier.
God
You
tier.
can't make trailers
Nope.
better than that. You
No.
can't do it. And then, so you have that, right? That's just, that's tickling your balls, right? Okay. And then you have the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo.
Yes.
One of the greatest demos of all time.
Top tier demo.
It is, there's so much shit you can do in the demo. So now, like, they're tickling the balls with both hands, and the pain was excruciating. And it's especially excruciating.
Is it Kojima doing it? The tickling?
It was a collective group.
And he just goes, did you like it?
Did you like the trailer?
Yeah, Kojima tickling my balls with both hands.
Oh my God. We've got there.
Well, and the other thing...
Overtime. Frame trap overtime.
The other thing is, like, you know, I don't know how old I was at that point. A young lad. And I didn't have the power. I had no money.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
And so it was like... What makes it more excruciating is like, I hope my parents, like, who don't have all the money in the world, buy me this thing that is my entire life. Mm-hmm. And I remember just like wanting it so bad. And like my dad would go on business trips. And like I had no expectation that it was happening. And like it was like the day that it came out, he came back that night after being away on a trip and he had the strategy guide for Metal Gear Solid 2, which is just so much fun to look through, you know?
Dude,
and he had Metal Gear Solid 3. It was like he was delivering me like the 10 Commandments off the mountain. Like I don't know if I've beyond getting the PlayStation 2, that was pretty dope. But it was just that excitement, because like now you can, if you want something, you go and you pre-order it. But it was like I didn't know I was gonna get this. It was just like,
dude.
Yeah, even when you
pure
want, even when
happiness.
like kind of a game is in the back of your mind, you know, and then it comes out, you're just shopping on the store. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, this is out. Oh, I'll just buy this digitally. Oh, I'll just get this right now.
Exactly.
It was not like that.
It was
back
like it was
then.
like he went on a journey to like bring this back.
Yeah.
And that's how it felt. And so it was just really exciting.
Do you remember having to call game stores?
Yes.
To see when
Oh,
it,
yeah, man.
and like there'd be a release date, and you'd call the game store, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah,
Should be in later.
should be in maybe like there should be in later," but then they like wouldn't get the shipment, and like
Yeah.
the release date is today, and the game store doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like when a game was sold out, you just get
Dude.
to buy. You're like, no.
Yeah. Or just like randomly dipping in, hoping that they had it. Or like the panic of like calling multiple, like trying to track it down. It's
Yeah.
like, how many options do I have in this city to get this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't have a car yet.
Yep.
Gotta ride your bike, dude,
Yep.
down to the store.
My mom drove me 90 minutes to get the Resident Evil 4 demo disc.
Dude.
Yeah.
I remember going to your house when you had that. That was
90-minute
crazy.
drive
Dude, demo
way.
discs are the hypest things in the world. Anyway, Hubert, I don't think I ever, both of you, I don't think I ever told you this story. So, I think it was like, I worked at a game store for a couple of years, and it was like a mom and pop game store when we had a whole bunch of retro games. And like we would obviously get people calling about games all the time.
I've asked you this before. Is that store still open or no?
The last time I check in when I go back, and
Excellent.
as far as I know, it totally still exists.
Cool.
Yes.
So cool.
Yes. But anyway, so we had like retro games, and we would always get this call. This kid would call.
Who is me?
And this was like around 2011, okay? He'd be like, "Do you have any PS1 wrestling games? Specifically, do you have any PlayStation 1 wrestling games?"
Yeah.
And we
The
would,
best.
we would-
SmackDown.
We would go into the back,
two.
and like,
No, PS1?
you know, this was a
SmackDown
long
Live.
time ago, so it's hard to remember all the details. But I feel like we would go back, we would tell him what we had, and he'd be like, "Okay, thanks, bye." And then he would like call back and he'd be like, "Do you have any PS1 wrestling?"
Just some guy doing a bit for years.
Yeah, no,
so
I think
funny.
it was a kid.
Oh,
And so
okay.
it's like whatever, just a funny goofy story.
That is funny.
So, but yeah, the things that people would work for, and like I could go on forever about this, and I think I've told this story before, but like you would get games traded in, and like you would open up game cases, and like weed would fall out. That definitely happened. Or like you would open a game case and there'd be like a porn DVD in there. That definitely happened.
That's so funny.
But it was the worst sometimes because like people don't take care of their stuff.
No, I know.
So like you would get stuff and you'd be like, there is like human gunk on your stuff. I don't want to touch it. Like that stuff happened all the time. Or like we would have toothbrushes and we would like clean up the controllers and you'd like get into like the divots of the controllers and like just
Yeah, gross.
gunk. It was like Shrek, man. It was nasty.
Blech.
But I think that's enough reminiscing for this frame trap. It is always good times when you guys are both on. Thank you so much, Bradley Ellis and Michael Huber. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to send in an email, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. And once again, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.